A new chapter begins in the streaming world, where virtual avatars are brought to life through voice and movement. Among them stands Isuzu Wine, a rising star with over 1 million followers. With bold confidence, she enters the spotlight, greeting everyone with "Good ONG, Isuzu Wine's here." The chat bursts with cheers and donations, her presence taking over the stream. With a playful grin, she teases the viewers, saying that if they want to call her a scrub, maybe enough super chats will make it happen. On stream, she's a lovable brat admired by many, yet off-screen, she is composed and distant, hidden behind the glow of her virtual fame. At Alpha Code Private Academy, a normal first-year student named Suda Shiojiri walks through the corridor, calm and reserved. A few months earlier, everything had changed. He got his first girlfriend. Life feels lighter, but the burden still lingers. With debt weighing on the family, all his pocket money goes toward daily needs. Because his father works so hard, his only wish is simple: to let him enjoy something nutritious once in a while. His eyes land on a part-time job listing, 9,000 yen per day, single-day shifts, no experience required. Motivation sparks, it's time to move. The first summer break arrives, and Suda Shiojiri stands by the window, thinking about their first summer together. Wanting to make her happy, he looks for a part-time job at a beach cafe, saving up for a date she would truly enjoy. With that in mind, he calls out to Kasumi, bringing up their summer break date. But she turns with a puzzled expression, asking what he means, repeating the word, "Date?" Kasumi sits with a piercing gaze, saying summer break won't be wasted on anyone except a real boyfriend. Her words strike sharply, telling him to act like a proper wallet and find work far away. Suda's eyes widen, his breathing uneven. His expression shakes, confusion filling his eyes as Kasumi speaks with cold certainty. She dismisses the idea of them being together, calling it meaningless, saying it was never serious, just a wallet and an errand boy. For a brief second, Kasumi's gaze drifts, questioning if any of it had ever been genuine. Memories flash, her walking beside him carrying bags, her teasing smile back then, and now that same smile appears again as she stands confidently, pointing ahead as if the past meant nothing. Shock rips through Suda's mind. Everything had been a lie. His voice trembles as he questions her, but Kasumi only gives a faint smile, brushing off his words. She admits it without hesitation, saying it was just to pass the time. With effortless pride, she reminds him she is the daughter of a CEO, saying there's no way someone like him could ever match her. Her confidence stays firm, while his world quietly fractures under her words. Her tone remains steady, even mocking, as she says he has no redeeming qualities. Kasumi coldly states there's nothing special about him. No height, no looks. Not even enough money to keep him as a wallet. Nothing that makes him more than an NPC at best. Suda's hand trembles, then tightens into a fist, the quiet laughter from the girls around her deepening the moment. His thoughts echo, realizing that's what she truly believed, that his feelings were one-sided. He forces a small laugh, saying it out loud, but his eyes reveal something else, pain and determination hidden beneath calm words. Kasumi stands with a confident smirk, saying that maybe if he ever became as popular as her, she might consider calling him her boyfriend. Suda freezes as she proudly shows her phone, claiming she's the best. His eyes widen, the name slipping from his lips, Isuzu Wine. The screen displays the girl everyone admires, the top female streamer of the moment. Kasumi's face lights up with admiration, calling her her absolute favorite, saying she's incredibly cute. Suda agrees that Isuzu is cute, but Kasumi steps closer, her eyes cold, correcting him. It's Wine Tan, not Isuzu. She calls Wine Tan the cutest, even mentioning she's doing a movie theme song now, her voice filled with pride. Spinning slightly, she says even someone like him knows about it, that Wine Tan's influence is everywhere. Suda looks down, speaking calmly as he mentions the theme song for Ammo, while she smiles brightly in admiration. His eyes dim as he quietly says that seeing her in real life, even just once, would be enough, his small wish drowned by her laughter. Laughter echoes among her friends as Suda lowers his gaze, silent thoughts passing through his mind, words he cannot say. Kasumi stands tall, her confidence sharp as she declares she already has a real boyfriend, not wasting time on worthless trash. Her smirk deepens, saying she would never bother with commoners, ending it with cruel certainty. As the group walks away, mocking laughter follows him out the door. His footsteps fade as the classroom noise swallows the last bit of pride he had. The word worthless lingers in his chest like a quiet wound. Under the silent night sky, thoughts of worthlessness echo within him. Doubt whispers, was it so wrong to want to be someone's first choice? The stars faintly shimmer, offering no reply. Inside the small kitchen, Suda stands before the stove, stirring a pan with slow, steady movements. A sigh escapes as memories of a cheerful girl cross his mind. Someone who once seemed kind, now only a painful reminder. His resolve hardens. Life will be simple from now on, quiet like plants and flowers, devoted only to family. Words from a distant stream echo faintly, teasing and empty, breaking through the silence. On the glowing screen, a confident girl with long hair and sharp eyes dominates the game. Her voice playful as digital shots fire in perfect rhythm. Coins and laughter filled the stream as she demanded support, mocking those without girlfriends. Suda sat quietly before the screen, eyes fixed, realizing how even the boldest admired her charm. A plate of food cooled beside him as thoughts turned. If anyone else demanded money like that, they'd be dismissed instantly, yet her words drew admiration. In that small room, the sound of sizzling faded, replaced by the realization that every super chat was more than money. It was tribute to a queen behind the screen. On the glowing monitor, Isuzu's laughter echoed as comments and money poured in, tips of thousands flashing one after another. Her confident smile filled the screen, teasing the audience as she declared that all their money would go toward gacha. Meanwhile, Suda stood quietly by the sink, watching as her voice filled the room. She mocked the crowd, yet they still paid, her words sharp but mesmerizing. All the money worked hard for just evaporates into someone else's play money, she said with a grin that burned bright beneath the lights. Faces lit up with admiration in the chat, calling her blessed, loving every moment. Isuzu ended the stream with her usual confidence, her voice light yet commanding as she gave a brief thanks before signing off. The screen faded to her cheerful message, telling everyone to like and subscribe, while comments flooded in, some admiring, some complaining about her bold attitude. Many called her a no-nonsense brat, yet others praised her for not pretending, calling it peak. Beneath that fierce streaming persona, he knew Isuzu was actually a good kid. His calm gaze lingered on the finished dish, a faint sigh escaping as he decided to take it to her. Suda climbed the stairs with quiet steps, a tray of food in hand, calling softly to the room beyond the door. His tone carried calm patience, a familiar care that spoke of habit. Behind that door sat a girl, her form lit faintly by the glow of a screen. The world knew her as a Suzu wine, but to him, she was a Suzu Shiojiri. The door creaked open, the faint hum of her setup filling the air. She turned slightly, her expression unreadable, still half lost in the afterglow of her stream. Suda stepped closer, steady and composed, ready to speak, his eyes soft with understanding. She may have been the confident idol on screen, but here, in this quiet room, she was just a good kid he watched over. She ran with bright eyes and a voice full of joy, calling out again and again. That warmth, that smile, that voice, all of it belonged to the one called his pride and joy, his little sister. She smiled brightly, her laughter soft and full of warmth, saying she was just so happy. In his arms, her joy overflowed as he tried to steady her, reminding her to be careful. With a gentle gaze, she thanked him, her words sincere and full of affection. She was a hopeless sister, one who loved her brother far too much, her happiness shining with every breath she took. For Suda and Isuzu, it began as another normal day. He served fried rice, telling her to sit down already, while she smiled, delighted that he made her favorite dish. The screen soon filled with voices, questions, surprise, confusion. Who's that? A guy. Winetan's boyfriend. Is this scripted? Her playful voice broke through the noise, calling out, "Big bro, feed me." That moment, so ordinary yet so reckless, became the spark of an unfortunate incident that would change everything. Isuzu Shiojiri sat before the cold light of her monitor, a calm smile resting on her face. 15 years old, 1 year below, a third grader of middle school. For certain reasons, she didn't attend school. Instead, she lived as a VTuber, her voice and presence shining through the screen while her true self stayed hidden. Shy around strangers, she spent her days sealed in that quiet room. Yet on that day, when she forgot to turn off her stream, everything, every calm moment and every secret, spiraled into chaos, marking the beginning of an unfortunate incident that changed everything. She stood beneath the soft light, silver hair flowing like moonlight through still air. Her snow-white skin and emerald eyes gleamed with quiet beauty, carrying a presence that set her apart from any ordinary girl. Every feature spoke of a world between two bloodlines, half Russian, half Japanese. A boy with black hair and calm black eyes stood in quiet contrast, ordinary yet composed. His gaze was steady, revealing little of the thoughts behind it. The girl beside him smiled softly, silver hair catching the light as she spoke with ease, her tone playful yet clear. She was a stepsister, not bound by blood. Between them lingered a sense of familiarity, shaped by time rather than lineage. When she called out cheerfully, tray in hand, he reached to steady it, warning of a spill. Their family ties were tangled, their connection unusual. Yet in that small exchange, a glimpse of warmth surfaced, simple, complicated, and real. Back to Isuzu, a girl small in stature, yet carrying sharp confidence in every step. In a crowd, many would call her a beauty, silver hair gleaming, eyes alive with quiet pride. The boy, seated before his screen, nodded in thought, quietly agreeing. A sudden realization struck. His gaze flicked to the monitor as lines of chat raced endlessly down the screen. He blinked in confusion, a single thought forming in silence. What was happening now? A cheerful voice echoed from the message, calling out for her brother again and again, playful and insistent. Isuzu sat on the bed, her tone warm as she thanked Suda for bringing food all the way to her room. The boy hesitated for a moment, tray in hand, then stepped closer as she spoke softly about how much he knew she disliked leaving her room. He nodded and approached, her words carrying gentle admiration. No one knew her better. She smiled, proud, calling him her big brother, her eyes bright with affection. Suda sat beside her, careful with the tray, reminding her not to leave leftovers. Isuzu rested her chin on her hand, lost in thought for a second, her gaze soft yet unreadable. With a faint tremble in her voice, Isuzu whispered that without being fed, some food might be left behind. A sigh escaped as his hand pressed to his forehead, the weight of her request sinking heavy. He hesitated, breath unsteady, then lowered his gaze in surrender. Fine. The battle was lost, the quiet words sealing his defeat. Her face lit with joy, arms raised high as she cheered, gratitude spilling like sunlight through a storm. Suda stood before her, feeding her piece by piece, unable to resist the charm that melted every ounce of resolve. He often thought it might be spoiling her, yet there was something disarming about her joy. Even without shared blood, her smile carried a warmth that reached deeper than words. Isuzu's laughter filled the room, cheeks glowing with pure delight, and in that brightness, Soda could only surrender. The screen nearby watched silently as his thoughts whispered, nothing must ever be done to make Isuzu dislike him. She leaned back, content, a soft sigh escaping her lips as she murmured, stuffed and satisfied. Suda sat beside Isuzu, his voice low as he mentioned the stream from earlier. Isuzu turned sharply, eyes bright with surprise and pride, her tone playful and full of warmth, saying how amazing it was that her big brother actually watched her stream. Suda's calm answer followed, firm and quiet, admitting that the stream had been watched. Then Isuzu's smile shifted, a mix of confidence and edge. As the next words came, this might sound a bit harsh, but her gaze never wavered. Suzu's voice carried calm conviction as he faced Isuzu, explaining that harsh words toward viewers, even if part of a character, should be cut out. His gaze softened, reminding that everyone made time to watch those streams, cheering and offering their hard-earned money with faith and affection. The monitor glowed with countless comments, overflowing with support and love. Isuzu stood before it, the bright screen reflecting in her eyes as the words continued. Ignoring those voices wasn't right. The least that could be done was to acknowledge them, the people who gave their hearts just to be seen. Isuzu shone brightly, smiling with grace as the audience reached out toward her image, voices rising in joy and devotion. When someone goes so far as throwing money and leaving a comment, the right thing is to say thank you and return the sentiment. Watching those gestures of affection, mumbling in hesitation, unsure how to respond. Then, with clenched fists and fire in her eyes, people really like that kind of character, doing it because that's what they want. Suda sat beside her, voice steady yet filled with worry, saying he understood and knew there was kindness within her. As her brother, he couldn't bear to watch people speak cruelly about her. His words lingered as shadows of the online world flashed before her eyes, voices of the antis, faceless and cold. She hesitated, her tone trembling as she confessed the truth that weighed on her heart. If the expected image wasn't kept, if the act slipped for even a moment, the stream of support might fade away. Her gaze lowered, burdened by the cost of every smile she had to maintain. Suda gently rested his hand on her head, telling her not to push too hard for money. His voice carried warmth, though the weight of truth lingered between them. They weren't well off, and ever since their mother passed away, their father had struggled alone to keep her dream cafe alive, still buried in debt. The quiet hum of the shop echoed that burden, its sign promising delicious coffee, like a fading wish. She sat silently, eyes trembling with emotion, while he smiled softly, realizing the reason behind her efforts. Streaming had become her way to help the family stand again. Isuzu stood beside her VTuber character, radiant in her ornate dress, declaring that just giving it all was more than enough. Isuzu's eyes lowered, her hand trembling as she clenched her sleeve. Her heart carried unspoken weight, acknowledging the effort that never went unseen, the scholarship earned through relentless work. Suda forced a small smile, saying that as long as top grades kept coming, the scholarship would remain untouched. He spoke lightly, but the strain hid beneath his calm tone. Isuzu's voice cut through, quiet yet firm. "No, it's not fine." Her eyes lowered, shadowed by exhaustion, whispering that continuing to get top grades was too much pressure. The weight of her words filled the silence, her hand resting still beside him as she added softly, "Not only that," revealing a burden deeper than study alone. Isuzu's voice trembled with concern, warning that working too hard would lead to collapse. Suda's calm face hid the exhaustion from nights spent studying after finishing chores, his quiet endurance unshaken. With a light smile, he brushed off the worry, saying a big brother was tougher than he looked. Her hand tightened on his sleeve, fear and frustration mixing in her eyes, but he simply answered that everything would be fine. Sitting close, he spoke gently, telling her there was no need to push until it hurt just to make money. Isuzu's voice broke the silence, shouting in defiance. Tears trembled as she confessed the pain of being a burden to those she loved. Yet her eyes burned with determination, refusing to stop. Her hand pressed to her chest, her words firm, wanting to be someone her precious family could count on, no matter what stood in the way. Suda spoke with a calm smile, thanking Isuzu and saying her big brother also loved her a lot. Her face brightened, a soft laugh escaping as she replied with a cheerful tone. The moment felt light and peaceful. Suda turned toward the sound, his hand resting on her head one last time before everything shifted again. But the sudden ring of a phone broke through it. The phone rang, showing the name, Kasumi Kasagawa. Suda stared at it in silence, his hand frozen midair. The ringing kept echoing, the name still there. Kasumi's face came to mind, calm and sharp as always. She had just dumped him today, so what could she want now? He looked away, not wanting to answer that call. Isuzu glanced up, asking what was wrong, wondering why he didn't answer. His voice came out low. The phone kept ringing, the name on the screen, Kasumi Kasagawa. Isuzu glanced over and asked who it was. Suda answered calmly, saying it was someone from his class. She tilted her head, questioning why not take the call then. His tone shifted, hesitant, almost quiet, saying only, before admitting the truth with a strained smile, he got dumped today. Her eyes widened in shock, the air between them heavy with silence. Shock filled the room as Isuzu's hand clenched against the bed, disbelief in her eyes as she repeated the word dumped. Her voice trembled with anger, asking why someone would do such a thing. Suda gave a small, uneasy laugh, admitting it was hard to explain, that there was someone else she liked. Isuzu shut up, her expression fierce, shouting in outrage and demanding the girl's name, her tone sharp and burning with frustration. Isuzu leaned in close, demanding an answer, her voice sharp with impatience. Suda hesitated, confused by her sudden intensity, but she cut him off, ordering him to just tell her. The name left his lips, Kasumi Kasagawa. Isuzu's expression twisted, muttering the name with scorn, only for Suda to flick her forehead in protest as she frowned, calling Kasumi trouble with a glare that could cut through glass. Suda scolded her gently, reminding not to speak of others that way. Isuzu lowered her head, apologizing softly. Yet his next words carried a faint smile, thanking her for getting angry for him. The air between them grew still, her eyes widening as emotion stirred within. His kindness struck deep, leaving her silent and flustered. She brushed her hair back, whispering how that kindness was one of the things loved most about him, her voice trembling with quiet affection. Then, as if to break the spell, the phone began to ring. Suda noticed the buzzing sound that had been echoing for a while, his calm voice cutting through the quiet as he pointed toward the source. Isuzu froze, her eyes darting to the phone on the table before she quickly grabbed it, startled by the sudden realization. Her expression tightened, tension building as the light from the screen reflected in her eyes. Then her voice fell to a whisper, livestream. As the truth sank in, Suda's gaze followed. Isuzu froze, her hand trembling as the truth struck, forgot to end the broadcast, apparently. Her stream still ran, her face caught in panic as the words, my stream, escaped her lips. Comments flooded in like a storm. Weintan has a big brother? You fed her. Wine is cheating with her brother. Weintan's family is poor? No mother? That's terrible. Some pitied, some mocked, others twisted her story. In the chaos, one line cut deeper than the rest. Isn't Kasagawa in the class next 2 hours? Everything she wanted hidden had already spread beyond control. The phone lit up with 53 missed calls and 28 messages, each one from Kasumi. Her words cut through the screen, demanding an answer about her name being broadcast across Japan. Suda stared in silence, confusion tightening his expression. Then Isuzu spun from her chair, her eyes wide, voice trembling as she called out, Big Brother. Rumors began to swirl online, talks about Kasumi, about Wine's big brother, and the link between them. In a rush of panic, Isuzu turned, eyes wide and breath caught, facing Suda. Both froze, sweat tracing down their faces, fear and confusion flashing between them. The noise outside the screen grew louder, excitement building. This is getting good. The chat exploded with messages, cheering and teasing. Weintan finally realized. Flustered Weintan is cute as hell. Isuzu's face burned with panic as she tried to keep her composure. Suda reacted fast, shouting for the stream to be cut. Fingers scrambled on the mouse, end stream. The moment the screen went dark, both froze, only for the phone to start ringing nonstop. The call ended with a tense voice echoing through the room. This was a serious problem. Isuzu stood frozen, gripping the phone, her manager's words still ringing in her ears. Guilt weighed heavy as she whispered an apology, her tone trembling. Suda's face turned pale, the realization crashing down. Everything had been heard, and Kasumi's real name had been leaked online. Fear struck harder with the thought of someone tracking her down. Amid the worry, Isuzu forced a smile, fragile but determined. Suda stood before the dim glow of his monitor, his thoughts weighed down by worry. What mattered most now was whether this would hurt Isuzu's career. The quiet night stretched on, moonlight spilling through the window as he wondered what could be done for her. Hours later, after she'd been on the phone all night, he knocked softly at her door, calling out before entering. Inside, Isuzu sat in her chair, still holding her phone, her eyes wide with surprise as she turned toward him. Isuzu lowered her head, voice trembling as she said she was really sorry. Suda watched in silence, knowing she must have been scolded by her manager, her usual cheer gone, now trapped in doubt. Her hands clenched tight, as if holding back the weight of failure. Thinking about her personality, that truth hit deeper than words ever could. It was clear she cared more about others than herself. When a gentle hand rested on her head, her body loosened, eyes softening. Suda gently placed a hand on her head, his voice calm as he told her not to worry. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how it's handled after. Isuzu looked up, face faintly red, whispering that she loved that side of him too. But behind that calm, Suda's thoughts turned heavy. He wondered if she had been fired, realizing her whole act had been exposed. The screen still showed her smiling, but the truth weighed deep. He clenched his fist, blaming himself for not reminding her to end the stream, calling it a failure as her brother. Yet in her soft hum, a small spark of strength returned, as if reminding him that not everything was lost. Isuzu raised her phone with shining eyes, announcing that her channel had just reached 1.25 million subscribers. Suda stared back, frozen in surprise, unable to process what he saw. Suda stared in disbelief, recalling how the number had just been around 1 million. Isuzu burst with excitement, explaining it had jumped by 250,000 overnight, that the live stream fail had gone viral. Suda repeated the word, confused, as Isuzu spun cheerfully, saying it meant it was shared everywhere, and thanks to that, everything changed. With a confident smile, she added that management said there would be no firing. Suda dropped to his knees, exhausted, whispering thanks under his breath. Isuzu ran toward him, shouting his name. On the glowing screen, the number passed 1 million, rising by 250,000 in one night. It had taken 3 months to reach that first million. Now management finally saw her worth. She reached out, eyes steady, saying sorry for making him worry. Suda looked up, voice calm and certain. saying she really was amazing. Isuzu raised a fist with a bright smile, saying the one who was really amazing was Big Bro. Her screen flashed with trending tags: Isuzu wine stream fail, good guy Big Bro, and the top spot, wines Big Bro. She pointed excitedly at her phone, urging everyone to check the trending page. Around her, the others watched in surprise, realizing that the name soaring above all was Wine's big brother. Suda stared in disbelief, frozen as the news hit. Isuzu Wine's big brother had become Wine's big bro. Shock flickered across his face as he questioned what was happening, while Isuzu nodded with a calm, teasing certainty. Her tone shifted, eyes steady, saying her manager had spoken and there was more to come. Suda stiffened as her next words landed with quiet weight. They wanted him to debut as a VTuber as well. Suda froze in disbelief, shouting in shock at the thought of becoming a VTuber. His face twisted in panic as Isuzu calmly answered with a simple nod. Her tone softened as she mentioned how everyone in the comments kept asking for him. Yet behind her calm words, a faint hesitation appeared. Big Bro belonged to her only, and the idea of him being popular felt complicated. Still, her gaze steadied as she offered a way out, saying if it was too much trouble, they could just say no. Suda leaned closer beside Isuzu, asking to see the comments. She showed her phone, the screen filled with voices. Big Bro's too much of a good guy, must protect. Winetan being a spoiled princess with her bro, more please. Some thought Winetan was just a bratty gremlin. Others admitted they didn't expect them to care about family that much, saying it changed their impression. Suda read it all in silence, his expression unreadable, the words leaving a quiet weight between them. A comment appeared, admitting a change of heart. Thought he sucked, guess was wrong. Suda fell silent, lost in thought, realizing that even the harshest voices had begun to see Isuzu's kind side. That one failed stream had shifted everything. His eyes sharpened, calculation flickering behind them. If that's the case, he thought, now was the perfect time to flip Isuzu's image. Suda raised his head, determination firm in his eyes as he said he would do it. Isuzu's eyes widened, shock flashing across her face as she blurted out her disbelief. He told her to go ahead, his tone steady. Without wasting a moment, she reached for her phone, saying she had to call her manager right now. Her excitement filled the room while he stood silent. From that moment, Big Bro was also going to be a VTuber now. She spoke of the debut, questioning what would remain after it. Her eyes wavered slightly as she added that even then, he would still be only a big brother. She smiled softly, her eyes steady. Suda looked back, answering with calm certainty, of course. Then, with a sharp motion, their hands met in a firm high five. Together, they declared to do their best. Suda leaned casually behind the counter, explaining how the whole VTuber story began, a faint grin on his face. Across from him, Ajamatsu rested her cheek on her hand, unimpressed, calling him an idiot with a calm but cutting tone. He shot back, frustrated, asking what that was supposed to mean. Her words kept rolling, sharp and teasing, mentioning how the school learned about the mix-up, the mistaken rumor about dating Kasagawa, and the fact that he was Wine's older brother. Suda's confidence cracked into a flustered groan, his shoulders sinking. He sighed, trying to stay calm, saying if she came only to roast him, then the door was right there. Yet Ajamatsu stayed composed, sipping her drink like it was nothing, reminding that a paying customer couldn't be told to leave. Yutako Ajamatsu, the classmate and childhood friend, sat with a calm, confident pose, her gaze sharp yet familiar. Her house stood close by, their paths always crossing since childhood, as if bound by coincidence. Morning greetings filled the quiet streets, a routine that had never faded. Through the years, both ended up in the same schools, middle and high, like it was meant to be. On the court, her steps were steady, the ball in motion, already a starter as a first year. In a school famed for its sports, Ajamatsu shone with effortless strength, the kind that spoke through action, not words. Suda worked quietly at his father's coffee shop, Arikoma, the warm light reflecting off the brick walls as he cleaned the cups with steady hands. It wasn't really a job, since no payment ever came, but it filled his days with quiet rhythm. Across the counter, Ajamatsu watched him, her tone calm but curious. The sound of water running filled the pause between them. Then came the question, how she realized he was Isuzu Wine's big brother, even without seeing a face or a name. Suda turned with slight confusion, repeating the word voice as if unsure. Ajamatsu recognized the voice right away, certain of it without a doubt. That familiar tone, steady and clear, was impossible to forget. She said it had always been a nice voice, one she could pick out anywhere. He asked if it really sounded that way. She stayed composed, hands clasped as her eyes lowered. Being recognized just by a voice, she thought. That's what it means to be childhood friends. Ajamatsu rested her cheek on her hand, eyes distant yet steady, her tone calm as she said it wasn't just because of being a childhood friend. She leaned back slightly, unimpressed, muttering that he was far too dense. Suda blinked, puzzled by her words, asking what that was supposed to mean. Then, pointing at him with quiet determination, she warned that he better brace himself. Ajamatsu spoke with calm confidence, explaining that even without exams, Suda would soon be surrounded by classmates eager to ask about his Suzu wine. A vivid image of him lost in a crowd flashed in her words, people pressing close just to reach the famed girl. She continued, her tone steady, reminding that Alvin had been surprised, especially after a debut as Wine-Tan's big brother. Suda responded lightly, admitting his father had been shocked. Ajamatsu's gaze sharpened, crossing her arms as she asked if balancing all that with school was possible. In the quiet cafe, his voice firm, he admitted not being really sure, yet still choosing to move forward. The path had already been chosen, his own decision, set in motion long ago. Across the room, Ajamatsu watched in silence, eyes low as she stirred her drink. The glass trembled softly. She whispered the only words left to say. She understood. Ajamatsu turned with a calm smile, greeting the new arrival with a soft welcome. Suda looked up as she called, but before the words could settle, the door burst open with a sharp clang. A man in a suit stepped through the mist, his steps heavy, his eyes sharp. Ajamatsu and Suda tensed, fear cutting through their surprise. Their thoughts aligned in silent shock. Who was the terrifying guy who had just shown up? The sound of the piano echoed through the empty hall until the phone rang, breaking the flow. A girl stopped mid-note, lifted the phone, and answered with a calm hello. Her expression tensed as she repeated the words, "What, right now?" then muttered about being in the middle of piano practice. After a brief pause, she said to hold on for Remy and sighed quietly, before setting the phone down. A smirk curved her lips as she lifted the phone, her eyes sharp with challenge. A promising newbie, she whispered to herself, the words carrying a spark of intrigue. Things were about to get interesting, and the fire in her gaze made that promise certain. A man in dark glasses appeared, his voice sharp as he asked for Suda Shiojiri. The boy nodded nervously, fear creeping through his chest. The man's stare was cold, terrifying, like a debt collector. The air grew heavy. The man spoke again, saying he was there to escort him. Suda swallowed hard, uncertain where this would lead. Thoughts raced. Was he the collateral? The man slipped a hand inside his coat, pulling out something that made Suda tense. The man in dark glasses introduced himself as Jiroda Nikoa, a representative sent by the CEO of 812 Productions. The name struck like thunder. Suda looked uncertain, repeating the name under his breath, trying to make sense of it. A moment later, realization hit. 812 Productions. Ajamatsu beside him froze, eyes wide with shock. Jiroda's sharp look and dark suit gave off a cold impression, yet his speech was strangely polite, leaving the thought that maybe he wasn't such a bad person after all. Jiroda stepped forward, his tone calm yet commanding, asking if there was some time later that day. Suda replied, saying he would be free once the shift ended. With measured motion, Jiroda turned toward the door, stating he would wait outside, and to be informed once the work was finished. The sound of the door chime marked his exit. Ajamatsu's eyes lit up, calling it amazing. Ajamatsu's eyes lit up, her voice sharp with excitement, saying he'd been scouted by the biggest VTuber agency around. She spoke with pride, knowing 812 Pro was famous for only picking girls. Suda answered quietly, saying it wasn't really a scouting, that it happened through a Suzu, and this was a first for them. Ajamatsu stepped closer, her tone rising, saying they actually picked a male liver. Suda froze for a moment, his hand still, the words slipping out under his breath. Ajamatsu paused, her eyes widening as realization struck. There were no men in the whole agency. Suda's face stiffened, the thought echoing in his mind. He would be the only guy, surrounded by women. The shock ran deep, the words looping like a warning. Ajamatsu confirmed it with a small, teasing smile, saying that's right, surrounded by nothing but women. Ajamatsu smiled faintly, her hand tightening around her ribbon as she wished good luck, her voice steady but distant. The city loomed under the bright sky, the tall Takanawa building standing like a wall before him. Suda stepped forward, eyes tracing the endless glass and steel, muttering that the place was huge. The building towered before Suda, the place where the top VTuber agency awaited. Inside, pressure built with every step. Just an amateur, yet standing before the elite. A single mistake could bring ruin. If everything went wrong, Isuzu could end up fired too. That thought burned in silence. There was only one thing that had to be avoided: failure. Jirota led Suda through the building, his tone sharp and professional. The elevator doors slid open with a soft click as they stepped inside. Then from the hall, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed, someone running, out of breath, pleading for the door to be held. A small figure appeared, clutching her chest as she gasped for air. Her appearance caught Suda's attention. She looked like an elementary schooler, lost and alone in a place far too serious for her. A quiet thought lingered. Why was she here by herself? With a confident smile, gratitude was offered, the tone light yet commanding. Suda responded with calm ease, asking what floor to choose. Her eyes narrowed slightly, composure firm as she instructed to press floor 12. The elevator rose in silence, stopping at floor 12. The man spoke, noting it was the same as theirs. A small nudge from the girl drew his attention as she asked what his business was there. He hesitated, words faltering. Her eyes narrowed, studying him quietly. The thought crossed her mind, since they were headed to the same floor, maybe this person was also a VTuber. But doubt followed, questioning if it was right to say that the reason for being there was to become one. Suda kept silent, careful not to speak carelessly, afraid any word might cause trouble for Isuzu. He asked if she was returning from elementary school, walking alone. The question hit her pride. She raised her head and declared she was in junior high, 3rd grade. His surprise showed at once, stunned by her answer, repeating it as if to confirm the truth. He tried to make sense of it, thinking how junior high students these days seemed this beautiful. She stood with confidence, her pose sharp and composed, her beauty undeniable. Suda watched in silence, his thoughts caught between awe and disbelief. Isuzu was beautiful too, yet something about his presence struck deeper. His gaze lingered too long, and she turned, crossing her arms, eyes locked on him with quiet pressure. She froze for a moment, disbelief flashing through her eyes before shock took over. Suda lowered his gaze, unsure, admitting with quiet honesty that he didn't know who she was. Her voice rose with frustration, unable to accept the truth, demanding how someone could not know her, asking if he even watched television. Suda answered calmly, saying he didn't, that most of the time was spent scrolling through a phone. She exhaled deeply, pressing a hand to her forehead. She crossed her arms with smug confidence, calling him a zoomer to the core. Suda fired back, accusing her of being no different. Her smirk only deepened, eyes glinting with mischief as she placed a hand over her chest, saying it was bold to take that tone with her. A soft chuckle escaped her lips, followed by a look of sharp amusement as she leaned closer, intrigued by his defiance. Suda paused, muttering a confused thanks as her gaze lingered. She introduced herself as Arc Tenryugawa, her tone sharp and steady, eyes gleaming with quiet dominance. The name struck with weight, a thought surfacing. Where had that name been heard before? As the elevator light climbed to 10, she added with calm certainty that only one person wouldn't know it. Suda tried to recall as his voice cut in, sharp and composed, calling him lacking in refinement. He turned away, telling her to leave him alone, but she stayed unshaken. The name Tenryugawa surfaced in thought, familiar from school days. Her words shifted toward the director, and realization struck. No way, it couldn't be. A quiet laugh escaped him, uneasy, as her confident gaze fixed on him. She called him amusing, and one of a kind. Arc raised her finger, her voice calm but cutting through the air. Wine's big brother. The words struck deep, freezing Suda in place. His eyes widened, shock and confusion colliding as silence fell heavy between them. Arc stepped forward with sharp confidence, her gaze locked on him, as she said he came to meet the company president, the brother of Wine. Suda froze, shock tightening his breath, the thought striking hard. His identity as Wine's brother was instantly exposed. Her faint smile held a quiet edge, and as her eyes narrowed, a single question cut through his mind. Who is she really? Suda sat in thought, tension written across his face. The words echoed. Yutako said there were no male VTubers in 812 Pro. His mind raced, suspecting it might be a trap. He clenched his hands, determined not to trouble Isuzu, refusing to drag her into this. Even without experience in streaming, he resolved to face it alone. I must handle this myself, he thought, eyes sharp with resolve, unaware of the quiet steps approaching behind him. Kasumi laughed hard, calling him very funny, her voice sharp and confident. Suda froze, startled by her sudden burst of energy. Her smile faded into a knowing grin as her eyes narrowed, declaring that fooling her was useless. The shift in her tone carried pride and certainty, leaving no space for doubt. She stood tall, her voice filled with confidence, as she declared the gift of absolute pitch and ability only a true genius pianist could possess, her hand resting proudly against her chest. Before her, eyes widened in disbelief, the words absolute pitch escaping in stunned realization. Ark leaned back with a calm smile, mentioning how the livestream incident made the boy a topic of conversation, known now as a Suzu Wine's brother. Realization struck. She had forgotten to turn off the stream. Panic flickered in his eyes as he thought, maybe it was a bluff, it couldn't be admitted right away. He decided to test if it was true or not. Then Ark's confident tone cut through, saying not to worry, nothing would be leaked. Her smirk stayed sharp as his tension turned into firm resolve. If that's how it was, then so be it. Suda tapped the table in rhythm, repeating the motion with tense focus, questioning what sound it was, what tone it carried. Ark's expression stayed cold, wondering what he was even doing. He tried to reason, saying if perfect pitch truly existed, the notes just now should have been do, re, and mi. Her patience broke, demanding if this was mockery or a test. The air turned sharp as his bluff faltered under her piercing stare, his attempt to act clever meeting her firm challenge head-on. Ark spoke with sharp certainty, saying the first note was sol, then do, and the last was mi, no mistake. Suda looked at her, stunned, calling it amazing to identify notes without any tool. Ark crossed her arms, replying with pride, asking who they thought she was. Suda asked if she could really tell their voices had only do and mi. Ark frowned, asking why he still mocked like that. Suda replied quickly, saying it wasn't mocking, only to prove if it was true or not. Ark stepped closer, her voice rising, calling him rude for speaking like that. The air between them turned tense, pride clashing with doubt. The door swung open as a woman stepped in, welcoming everyone inside. Laughter followed, bold, sharp, calling the place lively. Suda and Ark turned in surprise. With measured steps, she approached, her tone steady as she introduced herself as the president-director of 812 Production. Her name, Nico Araimi, fell with quiet authority. The door opened after a quiet call to enter. Inside, Suda saw the nameplate Nikoa. Confusion crossed his face as he muttered the name, realizing it wasn't unfamiliar. Then, with a calm smile, Raimi before them spoke, her tone steady. "That's my child." Suda froze, disbelief hitting hard. His voice cracked in shock. "Child." President Nikoa stood with calm grace, her glasses glinting as a confident smile touched her lips. Her appearance radiated elegance, making her look like a woman in her 20s. Yet Suda stared in disbelief, realizing that if this was truly her mother, her age should be around 30, or even 40. The thought stunned him. She didn't look that old at all. As she turned slightly, her poise and beauty left him speechless. Raimi entered with calm steps, her voice smooth as she apologized for the sudden visit of a strong man appearing at their place. Suda and Isuzu turned toward her, still unsure what to make of the situation. Standing tall in his black suit, Jirota bowed slightly at her words, his presence quiet yet commanding. With a composed tone, Raimi dismissed him, saying he could leave. The man obeyed without hesitation, his retreat leaving the room in a still silence. Now only Raimi, Suda, and Ark remained, facing one another in the quiet tension that followed his departure. Ark stood quietly, her thoughts racing, wondering why she was still there. Suda looked uneasy, his expression tense as he regretted embarrassing himself before the president, Nikoa. Ark turned toward Raimi, pointing at the newcomer and asking if he was one of hers, the one said to be Wine's older brother. Raimi laughed softly, her smile calm and charming, confirming it with ease while asking them to keep it secret. The air settled, yet the tension of hidden connections lingered between them. Raimi's voice cut through the silence, steady and sharp as she spoke the name. Her words carried a faint trace of recognition. Then Ark lifted her hand with a confident smile, her tone light but firm, saying only, "Okay." The mood shifted in an instant. Suda's eyes widened. Suda froze as Isuzu's calm voice struck the air, asking if the name was truly Ark Kumakumakuen. His expression stiffened, unable to deny it, while another voice rose in disbelief, questioning if it was real. Isuzu smiled faintly, saying he had finally realized it, her tone both sharp and knowing. Then Raime stepped closer, her gaze unwavering as she spoke with quiet certainty. Arc Kumakoma. That name carried a truth none of them could ignore. She stood with confidence, her expression sharp as she lifted her hand and introduced the name that carried power, Arc Kumakoma, top VTuber from 812 Pro, one of the 4 heavenly kings known across the scene. When the world of VTubers was still a distant dream, for legends rose from the screen, streamers whose fame reached beyond imagination. They built the foundation of today's VTuber culture, each one a symbol of power and creativity. Among them stood one name shining brighter than most, Arc Kumakoma from 812 Pro, the bareheaded idol whose charm and spirit captured countless hearts across the digital sky. Suda grasped Arc's hand tightly, his voice filled with awe and gratitude as he thanked her, calling her Arc Senpai. Arc's eyes widened in surprise, caught off guard by his sudden gesture. The memory of Isuzu appeared, how Arc's influence gave her a place to grow and shine. As the light reflected in Arc's eyes, emotion welled within her. She remembered leading the VTuber world while still in middle school. Suda's words reached her heart, calling her incredible, and for a moment, her composure softened, her eyes glimmering with quiet pride and disbelief. Suda watched the screen with awe, his eyes following the 2 streamers who danced with energy and joy. He thought of how their everyday lives became brighter, inspired by Arc's influence. Raime stood quietly nearby, her voice calm yet sincere, admitting that she too had grown because of that same light. Gratitude filled her words, steady and heartfelt. Suda's face lifted with a bright smile, his expression filled with respect and admiration, declaring his deep regard for Arc with pure honesty. Her eyes lowered, a faint sound slipping from her lips. Fingers trembled against the ribbon on her chest as she murmured, "Not really." Arc crossed her arms, turning away with a proud huff, saying it was fine to just act normal and not be so formal. Suda stood beside her, quiet and unsure, murmuring that doing something like that felt impossible. She looked back at him with calm eyes, her voice soft as she said it was fine. Music filled the air, and her tone turned lighter, because being treated like an ordinary person felt enough. She turned slightly, the words came softly, steady but heavy with meaning, calling that presence before her special. Across from her, he stood frozen, breath caught, eyes wide in quiet disbelief. Raime burst into laughter, her voice bright and confident as she praised Suda's talent, saying it was the first time Arc had spoken like that. Suda stood before her, unsure, murmuring a quiet thanks for the compliment. Then, with calm steps and a composed gaze, her heels clicking lightly against the floor as she said, "Then Suda-kun." Raime stepped forward with a confident smile, declaring it was time to start the interview with the president. Suda froze, startled by her words, blurting out in disbelief about the interview. Isuzu looked at him, unimpressed, asking why he was so shocked, then reminded him that they were here to work. Raime leaned back in her chair, saying that the management must know exactly who they are hiring since they would be working together. Suda, standing before her, admitted it was the first time conducting an interview, his voice uncertain. But before he could think further, Isuzu called his name sharply. Raime's calm expression softened as she leaned forward slightly, her voice steady as she spoke about determination. Her composed smile carried both curiosity and intent as she looked ahead, asking what drove such resolve, why the choice was made to become a VTuber. Raime stood tall, her voice steady as she spoke about the reason for wanting to be a VTuber. Her gaze was sharp behind the glasses, unreadable yet firm. Suda met her eyes, unsure, thoughts racing, whether to speak honestly here or not. The question lingered within him, torn between truth and fear. What if honesty led to rejection? Suda shouted with all his strength, declaring that everything was for Isuzu. The words slipped out before thought could stop them. Raime stood silent, her glasses catching the light as surprise flickered in her eyes. Her breath caught in shock. A heavy pause followed, broken only by Suda's clenched fist trembling at his side. The realization struck. Those words escaped too fast, the mouth moving quicker than the mind. Suda faced her with steady eyes, accepting whatever would come next. Raime watched calmly, saying that lies would never work, that no one could be deceived. Then, with a measured breath, she ended her words, naming the one that tied everything together, Isuzu. Even as a middle schooler, the girl had already taken on the weight of supporting her family, working tirelessly despite her age. Each day she faced the cruelty of strangers online, enduring harsh words without faltering. Yet across from her, the composed voice of another reminded that such pain was part of the path she had chosen, that every risk, every wound, came with the choice of being of VTuber. Suda spoke with quiet resolve, knowing that no matter how strong someone tried to be, the heart would still bear its wounds. His eyes burned with determination. He wanted to protect Isuzu, to support her from the closest place possible. In that moment, a clear conviction formed within him. To stand beside her, to shield her, and to be the unseen strength behind her smile. Suda stood firm, his eyes filled with determination as memories of Isuzu's smile crossed his mind. The thought of everyone who had cared for her, who had shown her love, echoed deeply within. With resolve burning in his chest, he declared his purpose, to honor them all. That was the reason behind his choice, the reason to step forward and become a VTuber. Raimi raised her hand high with a confident grin, declaring the result with pride. Suda had passed. Her sharp eyes gleamed behind her glasses as she welcomed him into the VTuber world, calling him the brother of Wine-kun. Suda stood there, caught between surprise and disbelief, his words faltering. Raimi leaned forward with playful satisfaction. Suda bowed deeply, his voice steady as he gave thanks with all his heart. Raimi's confident smile returned as she lifted a finger, announcing what came next. Suda would go straight into a collaboration livestream. His eyes widened, answering with firm resolve. Raimi's tone carried sharp energy as she declared the plan. This would be a joint stream with Wine's sister. The air around them felt charged, and with a proud spark in her eyes, Raimi stated it clearly. This collaboration would be with the #1 VTuber talent of the agency. Arc lifted her hand with elegant confidence, sound of voice clear and commanding, as she declared a live stream collaboration with Arc Komarkoma. Suda Shiojuru froze, his breath caught, his body stiff in disbelief. Under the dim evening light, Isuzu leaped into Suda's arms, shouting, "Oniai-chan, welcome home!" The force sent him stumbling back, shock flashing across his face. Still breathless, he steadied her and said quietly, "I'm home, Miss Suzu." Her hands reached up, brushing through his hair as relief softened her eyes. With a spark of excitement, she asked if the debut had already been scheduled, when it would happen. Suda gave a faint, tired smile, replying that she must have already been sure he would pass. Isuzu Shiojiri smiled with bright confidence, her eyes shining as she declared full belief that Onie-chan would pass. Her voice carried certainty, her face glowing with pride. Suda Shiojiri looked at her with calm relief, a faint blush rising as quiet gratitude filled his expression. He gave a small nod before turning away. Isuzu clasped her hands together, a playful hum escaping as she stepped forward, her tone light but eager while speaking about the brother-sister livestream planned for today. Suda Shiojiri froze in disbelief, struggling to understand her words. Isuzu Shiojiri clasped her hands and explained that since the last stream had caused chaos, they would do another livestream, a simple talk while apologizing. Her voice was calm, almost certain. She looked up, asking if Onie-chan would join and apologize together. His eyes sharpened, breath steady, and with sudden resolve he shouted, "Of course." The time had finally come. The room glowed with the cold light of the monitors as Suda Shiojiri stood before them, silent and focused. The model avatar was ready, designed perfectly for him. It was the character of Wine's brother, created with skill and precision. He spoke with quiet resolve, knowing everything was set. Isuzu Shiojiri's voice followed, sharp and full of energy, saying her mama finished it fast, faster than expected. Suda Shiojiri examined the screen, realizing how remarkable it was to create such a detailed model in a short time. The VTuber world called the designer Mama, a strange yet fitting tradition. One day, he decided, thanks would be given to that Mama. Then Isuzu Shiojiri called him over, her voice clear. He stepped closer as the chair beside her clicked into place. She pointed at the mic and explained they would talk through it, meaning he would sit next to her. He nodded once, silent, as the setup for their next move was complete. Suda Shiojiri turned his head slightly, his calm eyes narrowing with quiet hesitation. Isuzu Shiojiri leaned forward, her tone gentle yet certain, asking if Onie-chan could sit a little closer. The soft glow of the screen lit her face as silence settled between them. She waited, patient and steady, her expression calm, almost unreadable. Isuzu Shiojiri leaned back in her chair, giving a sharp wink and calling Suda Shiojiri a shameless Onie-chan. Her voice cut through the quiet room, teasing yet precise. Suda Shiojiri froze, his face burning as Isuzu Shiojiri leaned closer with a teasing smirk, throwing careless words that left him speechless. He shouted back in disbelief, demanding to know where she learned to talk like that, but she only laughed harder, pointing out how flustered he looked. Her laughter echoed as she teased, saying everything was fine since they were siblings. His patience broke, voice raised, asking her to listen for once. Then the moment shifted. Isuzu fell silent, her head lowering, expression dimming. Suzu's tone softened, confusion in his eyes as he asked what was wrong, but her only answer was quiet stillness. Isuzu Shiojiri lowered her head, covering her face with trembling hands as she spoke softly about bad news. Suda Shiojiri turned to her, confused, asking what she meant by bad news. The screen flickered with messages, mocking, playful words saying finally realized, and asking how long they planned to act so close. Their eyes widened as the realization struck. Isuzu forced a cheerful pose, flashing a peace sign with a nervous grin as she laughed about the second unofficial livestream turning into another disaster. Just moments earlier, the two had sat side by side, faces lit by the monitor, trying to manage the stream. Now, as she cleared her throat and tried to recover, Isuzu Wine spoke sharply, questioning why everyone stayed awake this late, her voice steady with authority. She reminded them that work still awaited tomorrow, her tone cutting through the chaos. The chat exploded with disbelief. Usually only 30,000 watched, but now 150,000 were there. Isuzu Shiojiri tried to keep calm, her words slipping, while Suda Shiojiri froze, his breath caught as he realized the knower. 150,000 people watching, far beyond anything they had planned. Suda Shiojiri stood frozen, frustration tightening his chest as the realization struck. 2 live streams, both ending in chaos. He clenched his fists, unable to let it go, muttering that things couldn't stay this way. Raimi Nico's sharp voice echoed in his mind, reminding him of his promise to protect Isuzu, to respect those who watched. Yet, instead of saving her, he had only damaged her reputation further. His jaw tightened, breath steadying as determination replaced regret. The only thing left to do now, he thought, was act. Suda Shiojiro knelt down, pressing his forehead to the floor, his voice steady as he apologized for ruining 2 live streams in a row, admitting failure as a professional. Isuzu Shiojiro stared in shock, unable to speak. He vowed not to let it happen again, his tone filled with resolve. The comments erupted, some questioning if he really did a Dejiza, others calling him Wine's brother, and a few saying it wasn't necessary. But he stayed firm, declaring that because of this, he would take full responsibility. Suda Shiojiri faced the screen, his voice steady as he asked everyone not to abandon Isuzu. Isuzu Shiojiri looked at him in silence, her lips parting as she softly called his name. His eyes lowered, shadowed with resolve. The chat filled with voices calling him Aniki, congratulating him as Wine's brother, and thanking him for showing another side of Wine. Suda watched the words appear one after another, realizing that despite everything, they still chose to stay. Isuzu Shiojiri pointed forward, her voice firm as she warned everyone not to steal her brother's attention. Her face flushed with determination as she declared she would never hand him over to anyone. The chat burst with reactions, some teasing, some touched, calling her a brocon, saying it was fine since they were siblings, or that their closeness was heartwarming. Suda Shiojiri stood in silence, a faint sigh escaping as he realized the viewers still didn't know the truth behind everything. The truth settled between them. Both were not real siblings. No argument, no denial, only the quiet acceptance of what had always been there. The bond that held them wasn't blood, but something built through Tim. Suda lay on his bed, whispering that it was finally over. Earlier that morning, an incident had happened, a livestream meant for an apology to Isuzu about the previous mistake. He knelt down, shouting his apology, saying it was supposed to make up for the last livestream. Yet the result was worse. Instead of fixing things, they created another disaster. Isuzu's voice echoed in his mind, admitting the second unofficial livestream turned out a mess too. Everything that was meant to repair their image only deepened the chaos, leaving him still under the weight of failure. Suda stared at the screen, disbelief tightening his chest. Their name dominated the top trends. Donations poured in endlessly, reaching the highest record in Super Chat history. He whispered that what happened earlier was just an accident, yet it had become viral beyond control. He admitted not understanding the world of tubers at all. Still deep down, he knew this chaos was something to be grateful for. As more messages appeared, money sent for daily life, offerings dedicated only to Isuzu's brother, He sat still, the glow of the phone reflecting a mix of confusion and quiet acceptance. Isuzu burst into the room, her voice loud and full of life as she jumped onto the bed, calling out with unstoppable energy. Suda froze, caught between surprise and disbelief, watching her grin as she declared that breakfast was already ready. Her tone carried excitement, bright and unstoppable, while his remained calm and restrained, wondering how she could be this spirited so early. On the desk, a paper labeled contract rested beside them, a reminder of Raimi's words that approval from the parents was still required. The morning light filled the room as a calm voice greeted Suda, calling him by a nickname only family would use. Suda responded softly, returning the greeting while sitting beside his Suzu at the dining table. Their father, dressed neatly with an apron tied around his waist, approached with a smile that carried both ease and quiet authority. He placed a plate of breakfast before them, sunny-side-up eggs cooked to perfection, the kind Suda always preferred. Isuzu cheered with excitement, the joy in her voice cutting through the calm of the morning. As they began to eat, she spoke eagerly about visiting 812 Pro the day before and being interviewed, her words filled with pride and energy. The morning air grew still as Suda looked up, meeting his father's calm but curious gaze. The man's voice carried quiet weight, asking what had happened next. Suda straightened his back, his expression steady, yet filled with quiet resolve. With a faint, confident smile, he said he planned to become a VTuber, the words leaving his lips with a sense of finality. His father stood silent, eyes unreadable, the pause between them thick with meaning. Then came the question, simple, direct, but heavy enough to test conviction. Was it truly fine for him to become one? The man spoke firmly, asking if the decision had been made in haste, reminding that being a high school student meant there was still time to think. His tone softened, suggesting it would be better to take time, to understand what truly needed to be done before deciding. The boy stood quietly, realizing the words were true, whispering that it was completely beyond expectation. The clock beside him ticked steadily, marking the weight of a choice that could no longer be ignored. Suda sat in silence, his thoughts circling the words that still echoed from earlier. He never expected such restraint from his father, someone who had always shown unwavering support. Even Isuzu, usually so composed, was caught off guard, her fork frozen midair, admitting that the words made sense. Suda's mind tightened with conflict, wondering what needed to be done to earn that trust again. The image of their father flashed in his memory, always respectful, always backing both of them no matter what. And now, that support felt like a weight he had to live up to, something he could no longer take for granted. Suda sat before his father, the tension thick but quiet. His words came steady, trying to ease the man's concern, saying it wasn't like that, only that worry had filled the air. The truth was clear, being new meant failure was a real chance, and even he knew it. Yet beneath that honesty burned a will that refused to fade. His gaze firmed, voice certain. No matter what, the goal stood unchanged, to become a VTuber. It wasn't just a dream anymore, it was resolve, sharp and unshaken, born from the very doubts standing before him. Suda stood firm, voice trembling yet filled with conviction, saying he wanted to become a VTuber, not for fame, but to help his father and his Isuzu. His eyes burned with purpose as he leaned forward, refusing to back down. Across the table, his father watched in silence, the weight of the moment pressing between them. Then, with a faint smirk and a quiet sigh, the man muttered only 2 words, calling him a fool. Suda faced his father, eyes steady as the man leaned in close, his voice sharp yet calm, saying that Suda always cared too much, always thinking about family. The words struck deep, but Suda stayed silent. Later, in the quiet cafe, he moved through the empty room, his apron still on, admitting that all this time had only been spent helping with housework and the cafe. His father's hand rested on his head, the weight of it firm, his voice low, saying that was already enough. Jirota's calm expression softened as he looked at Suda, a faint smile breaking through his usual stern face. With quiet certainty, he told him to go ahead and become a VTuber. Suda froze for a second, disbelief flashing across his face before blurting out in surprise if it was really allowed. Jirota simply turned away, saying it was his own decision to make. As he walked past, his tone stayed steady, adding one last thought. Besides, that choice was already his to carry. Jirota looked at Suda with calm conviction, his tone steady as he told him to fight with everything he had. Even if failure came, it wouldn't matter, because no one in the family would ever laugh at him for trying. Suda's eyes widened, surprise mixing with relief as he took in those words. The older man gave a faint, confident smile, assuring him to stay calm, while the boy clenched his fists and nodded, answering with quiet resolve that it was true. Isuzu stood firm, her expression bright and confident, promising that she would always stay by his side. The words carried the strength of assurance, as if nothing could shake that bond. Had accepted him, Oyaji and Isuzu. His voice softened as he thanked them both, his heart heavy yet calm, grateful for the family that. Raimi's eyes shone behind her glasses, her voice brimming with excitement as she praised Suda's last stream, calling it incredible. 150,000 viewers, truly extraordinary. Suda, standing before her, looked surprised and uneasy. His tone calm as he mentioned it had only been an accident, wondering softly why there was no anger in return. Raimi smiled confidently, saying the last stream was incredible, reaching 150,000 viewers and even trending #1. She told him there was no reason to be angry, the hype was too great. Suda looked uncertain, thinking it was unexpected, unsure if everything was really fine. Handing over a letter from his parents, he spoke quietly. Raimi took it, nodded once, and said thank you, her calm voice leaving no room for doubt as the moment settled between them. Raimi studied the papers with a sharp gaze, explaining that there was no rule limiting applications to female VTubers. Her tone stayed calm, confident. Across the room, someone asked why she decided to recruit a male VTuber this time, and her reply came firm. She never set such restrictions. Later, in the quiet of the interview hall, she sat before a line of hopefuls. The assistant admitted they had interviewed several male VTubers before, but something about this felt different. Raimi leaned back in her chair, the papers in her hand rustling softly as she spoke with calm precision. Many male VTubers, she explained, came only to show their hidden selves before proving their talent, chasing the image of others rather than their own potential. Her voice carried no anger, only quiet disappointment as she said how unfortunate it was, how that kind of mindset killed their own ability. Her eyes softened briefly, then steadied again. Once the 2D model was finished, she added, she would reach out again. Suda stood before the tall building, staring upward, thinking there were still many things left to understand. Maybe once standing at the top, the view would finally change, showing what had been hidden all along. Then a voice broke through the noise, his name, called out sharply. Turning, he saw Ark standing there. She smiled, saying it had been a long time, asking if he had just finished. Suda asked if she came there too, and if she was about to head home. Ark nodded, saying they should go home together. She was quite famous after all. Her tone was casual, but her stance carried the presence of someone who knew exactly who she was and how the world saw her. As the two walked side by side, a massive billboard loomed above, displaying a concert tour for Tenryuga. Ark sort of stopped for a moment, looking up, questioning why someone like her, a famous pianist with such a grand advertisement, would become a VTuber. Raimi leaned back in her chair, calm yet sharp, explaining how every VTuber wore a mask, a crafted character used to interact with viewers. Her words echoed with quiet certainty. Elsewhere, Kasumi stood in thought, realizing there must be a reason someone like Ark chose to hide behind that mask. Her expression tightened, lost in quiet reflection. His gaze drifted toward her, wondering why someone like Ark would need to conceal herself behind a VTuber's face, when even without it, she already shone with such charm. Outside, Suda and Ark walked together, his pace slowing as he muttered about perhaps walking too far. Ark froze, her cheeks turning bright as her heart raced faster than her thoughts. Suda tilted his head, confused by her reaction, wondering if something was wrong. Yet to Ark, the simple word echoed endlessly, breaking through her cool composure and leaving her standing there. Ark clenched his fists, frustration clouding her face as she groaned. Her mind raced, insisting there was something more important to focus on. Walking beside Suda, she tried to steady her voice, mentioning how excited the audience must be waiting for their stream. Suda scratched his head, distracted, mumbling about his computer setup. The tension melted into a quiet walk, awkward yet oddly familiar, as both pretended not to notice how their hearts still beat faster than before. Ark leaned forward, curiosity flashing behind her glasses as she asked about the missing computer. Suda scratched his neck awkwardly, admitting the only one at home belonged to his sister. Ark hummed, thinking for a moment, then suggested walking together instead. Her sudden proposal left him startled, unsure what to make of it. Quickly, Ark waved her hands, flustered. insisting not to misunderstand. Her offer wasn't what it sounded like. Ark crossed her arms with determination, declaring she understood everything perfectly. Suda froze, startled by her sudden confidence. She leaned closer, pointing sharply and insisting not to get the wrong idea. Her plan was clear. She would lend her spare computer so they could work immediately. Suda stammered, unsure, asking where they were even going, but Ark's gaze cut through hesitation. With a smirk behind her sunglasses, she declared the next move, heading straight to his house. Suda's eyes widened in disbelief, his voice breaking into a startled cry. The thought raced through his mind. Someone other than his sister actually wanted to come to his house. Ark walked beside Suda with firm steps, her voice steady as she declared her reason for the live stream. She would lend her spare computer and help set it up so it could be used right away. Her tone left no room for doubt. Then, turning her gaze toward him, she said it clearly. Now, they would go to his house. Ark stopped in front of the cafe, eyes bright with admiration, as she praised how beautiful the place was. Realizing the family owned a cafe business at home, Suda smiled faintly, suggesting they head straight to his house, though surprise flickered in his tone. Without hesitation, Ark clutched her hat and urged him to move, saying they should get inside and set up the computer right away. Suda bowed deeply, voice filled with gratitude. Ark lowered her sunglasses with a confident smile, saying there was no need to be so formal. It was the duty of a senior to help a junior. Suda watched her quietly, realizing how natural it was for Ark to lend a hand, always acting with genuine sincerity. As she walked ahead, determined and poised, he followed behind, admiring the way she moved forward without hesitation, as if helping others was simply a part of who she was. The quiet interior of the cafe blended seamlessly with the house, each space connected with care. Suda explained how the first floor facing the street served as the cafe, while the back became the kitchen and living room. Ark listened intently, her eyes scanning every corner, curious about the layout. He continued, saying the bedrooms were upstairs. The first room on the left belonged to Isuzu. Ark nodded softly, following the description with interest. Ark looked thoughtful, her gaze steady as she wondered aloud if Isuzu wine might be in her room, hoping to greet her. Suda scratched the back of his head, glancing nervously toward the closed door. His tone softened as he admitted that Isuzu was rather shy, suggesting it might be better for another time. A faint, apologetic smile crossed his face, revealing both hesitation and quiet understanding. Ark stood at the doorway, offering a calm farewell, her words steady and sincere. Suda responded with quiet gratitude, his tone soft but certain. Thoughts raced through Ark's mind. If the meeting happened suddenly, Isuzu might panic, leaving a poor impression. The worry showed on her face, a mix of tension and care. Yet, as she looked at the memory of their smiles together, her expression softened. The goal was clear: help Isuzu feel comfortable. Suda spoke quietly, telling her to be careful while climbing. He moved up the stairs, one hand holding her hat, her steps cautious but steady. His eyes followed in silence, focused only on her movement. Froze for a moment, her eyes wide as she noticed something unexpected. Suda quickly reached out, calling her to stop, his voice sharp with urgency. She stumbled, asking what was wrong as he steadied her. Better if the boy went up first. His expression grew tense, almost serious, while she blinked in confusion, muttering softly that his reaction was a little too intense. Suda opened the door, his tone calm as he apologized if the place was a bit messy. Ark stood still, quietly answering with a hesitant okay. Her steps were small as she changed into the slippers. Suda's eyes followed her, a trace of concern in his steady gaze as he asked, "Ark, what's wrong?" Ark's voice trembled as she said it was fine, and asked permission to come in. Suda looked at her, puzzled, his expression calm but questioning. She slipped off her shoes in silence, her steps small and hesitant. Then, without a word, she moved inside, busying herself as soon as she entered, adjusting things quickly. She moved fast, her hands steady and precise, every motion sharp like a deity at work. Though still in middle school, her skill already stood above many. He watched quietly, realizing how talented she had become. Without a word, he decided to make coffee for her. She didn't stop, eyes locked on the screen, movements relentless. She lay still on the table, her mind restless, admitting how strange it was to feel nervous today, even though it was nothing special. It felt as if the person she was now wasn't the same as usual. Meanwhile, Suda moved through the quiet house, unaware of the uneasy calm that waited beyond the door. The door creaked open as Suda stepped in, carrying 2 glasses in hand. From behind the door, Isuzu peeked out, startled, softly calling his name. He smiled faintly, saying he was home. Her expression tensed, a mix of confusion and unease, as she greeted him back, muttering how something about the moment felt strange. Suda paused near the door, catching faint voices from his room, realizing someone was inside. Ark stood nearby, tense, her thoughts racing, suspecting Isuzu's unease had something to do with Kuma Kuma. Confusion settled as she wondered if it would be fine to stay silent, her eyes narrowing in quiet calculation. Inside, doubt and curiosity intertwined, her expression caught between hesitation and calm resolve. Suda mentioned that a friend had come over, his tone casual and light. Isuzu froze, her eyes wide with disbelief, shocked by the idea that her brother actually had a friend. The realization hit harder than expected, leaving her expression caught between surprise and confusion. As the air settled, Suda apologized, saying it might get a little noisy. Isuzu glanced away, replying softly that it was fine, her voice steady but her thoughts still tangled with disbelief. Suda entered the room carefully, holding 2 glasses in hand, greeted by the bright glow of the screen and Ark's startled cry. The laptop flickered as she announced the setup was complete, her voice quick and composed. He offered the drink politely, saying to help herself. She looked at the glass, surprised and thankful, impressed by how fast it was prepared. He smirked lightly, asking who she thought he was. Taking the drink, she whispered softly, her tone quiet but firm, eyes steady with a hint of challenge. Ark took a sip, her eyes widening with surprise as the taste hit, rich, smooth, perfectly balanced. She exclaimed how delicious it was, praising Suda for being amazing at making coffee. He smiled humbly, admitting that compared to his father, he was still a beginner. She grinned, saying she liked it and would come again next time, her voice filled with playful sincerity. He chuckled softly, saying his father would be happy to gain a new customer, and welcomed her to visit anytime. She sat in silence, her fingers lightly holding the glass as her gaze dropped. The drink was gone faster than expected, prompting a quiet thought about how quickly it had been finished. Maybe it was because the room felt warm, she wondered. Yet, with a small, uneasy smile, she admitted it wasn't the heat, it was nerves. A faint blush traced her cheeks as she gripped the glass tighter, confessing softly that this was the first time stepping into a boy's room. He froze, holding the glass in silence, realizing how dry his throat felt. Across from him, she fidgeted, still flushed from the moment before. The room was quiet until a sudden burst of panic escaped her, claiming an unbearable thirst. He turned in surprise, only to see her reaching out, desperate for another drink. With a soft sigh and faint smile, he handed over the glass, the ice clinking softly between them as the tension slowly settled. She stared down at the drink, realization dawning as her eyes widened. The thought hit hard, he had used the same straw she drank from. Her mind spun in panic, her face turning red as she tried to process it, words tumbling out in disbelief. The glass trembled slightly in her hands, her pulse quickening with confusion and embarrassment, while her thoughts tangled between shock and the absurd idea she couldn't bring herself to say aloud. Suda stood in silence, a trace of confusion shadowing his calm eyes. His thoughts raced, convinced she must have disliked what happened, her stammering proof of it. With an apologetic tone, he spoke, regretting having made something she might have found unpleasant. Across from him, the girl clenched her fists, her face red as she stumbled over words, trying to deny it, her heart pounding too fast for reason. Her heartbeat steadied as she exhaled softly, eyes lowered in quiet thought. The taste lingered, strangely comforting. It felt good, she admitted to herself, though a faint blush still colored her cheeks. Her hand brushed against her arm, uncertain yet calm. The bitterness was there, unmistakable, but something about it drew her in, leaving a faint thrill behind. It was a mix of sweetness and sting, the kind that stayed long after the first sip, addictive, in its own quiet way. A sudden thud echoed through the room, breaking the stillness. Suda turned sharply, realizing the noise came from the next room. His calm voice carried mild concern, guessing it was Isuzu's doing. Ark, rubbing her head in slight frustration, murmured that Isuzu might be angry. Her shoulders tensed as she explained the walls were thin. Maybe their chatter had been too loud. Suda glanced toward the wall, thoughtful yet calm, commenting how troublesome it could be when walls were that thin. Ark sat quietly, her eyes soft as she admitted feeling envious. Suda turned toward her, curious, his tone calm yet questioning. She lowered her gaze, explaining how her home was always filled with busy people, leaving little time to gather like this. Her voice carried a trace of longing as she spoke, her fingers lightly gripping the edge of her sleeve. Moments passed before she forced a small smile, saying it was something she had already grown used to. Suda placed a hand on Ark's head, realizing she carried many thoughts. Ark froze, eyes wide, as silence filled the room. Words slipped out softly. Ark also had many worries. A brief pause followed, ending only with a quiet, uncertain sound between them. Ark looked up, her voice soft, wondering why Suda was always so kind to her. He smiled faintly, saying it was because she felt like a little sister. A sudden hit followed, sharp and unexpected, Isuzu's irritation breaking the calm. Suda blinked, rubbing his head in confusion, unsure why Isuzu seemed so angry. Ark stood determined, her expression fierce as she called out Suda's name. Frustration sparked in her voice, claiming it was unfair, entering a boy's room and stealing every first moment without hesitation. Her hand clenched as she demanded the same, asking for his first time too. Then, with sudden resolve, she declared they would do this live. Suda froze in shock, eyes wide, unable to process the storm she had just unleashed. Ark suddenly stepped forward, her expression fierce and full of intent, making Suda tense as he called out her name in surprise. Before another word could form, a storm of blows followed, each strike echoing through the room in rapid bursts. Suda froze, stunned by the sudden outburst, while Ark turned sharply toward the laptop, her movements swift and focused. He could only stare, confused, as he asked what she was about to do next. Ark sat before the glowing screen, her voice calm yet decisive, saying the livestream would begin, an unofficial collab, just casual talk, nothing more. Suda, startled by her composure, asked in disbelief if it would happen here. Ark simply continued, explaining it was already posted online, her tone steady as her fingers moved across the keyboard. The monitor flickered to life, a cheerful message appearing on the screen, welcoming everyone and asking for cooperation, addressed gently to Wine's older sister. Ark typed with focus, her eyes sharp as she announced a special live stream, a first collab with a popular VTuber from 812 Pro. Suda froze in disbelief, realizing the stream would happen right in that room. Dressed in a playful outfit, the girl on screen spoke cheerfully, saying it was a chance to be known by many. Suda hesitated, questioning if such a sudden collab was really fine, while the cheerful voice explained that collaborations like this could even happen in person, not just online. The screen glowed, their connection bridging two worlds, one behind the camera and one before it. Ark stood close, her expression serious as she warned that the audience must never find out they were in the same room. Suda froze, realizing the risk, meeting suddenly like that could shock everyone. The thought of two people streaming under one roof, one of them a new VTuber, could spread fast. Ark's voice trembled as she muttered her worry, while Suda stammered in agreement. For them, this sudden livestream was more than a collaboration. It was an unplanned encounter between a viral VTuber and one of the most popular names in the world. Ark raised her fist high, confidence blazing in her eyes as her words echoed with certainty. Just a 20-minute talk, yet enough to spark a storm online. The trending tags flashed across the screen, her name climbing fast, turning into the next viral wave. Excitement surged through her, knowing fame was just within reach. Suda watched from nearby, calm but certain that with Ark around, everything would unfold just fine. The numbers on the screen shot up fast, hundreds of thousands, tuning in within moments. Both facing the monitor as the realization hit. This wasn't normal. What should have been a small, casual stream had drawn a storm of attention. Ever calm yet sharp, pointed out how unusual it was for a weekday broadcast, while Suda tried to stay composed, noting the eerie influence of Wine's fame. With a steady breath, the cursor hovered over the button, Start Streaming. The countdown to something far bigger than expected had begun. Kuma greeted everyone with a bright smile, her cheerful Kuma filling the room. Suda froze, staring in disbelief as her voice suddenly changed, sounding like a completely different person, leaving him stunned in silence. Ark spoke with calm confidence, her voice shifting into the tone of an anime voice actor, drawing instant amazement. The stream exploded with excitement, fans flooding the chat, calling for Wine's sister, and cheering her name. Suda watched, stunned, realizing how powerful the effect truly was. Kuma tried to catch his attention, pouting as the crowd went wild with endless comments praising the #1 VTuber in the world. Ark stood nervously, forcing a smile that carried a sharp, intimidating edge. At her side, as she asked to begin the opening, instantly taking control of the scene, Ark apologized, stumbling over her words, while Kuma cheerfully switched the flow into a lighter mood, teasingly asking to be called by her name. The chat filled with laughter, reacting to Ark's awkward shift into her polite mode. As even the mighty Aniki-chan was drawn into Kuma's easy rhythm, slowly finding balance in the lively chaos of the stream, Ark tried to stay calm, explaining that calling her Kuma-senpai felt more natural than anything else, though confusion filled the air as both struggled to adjust. Kuma's tone sharpened, wondering why it became her fault, before giving in and telling Ark to call her however preferred. The tension eased when Ark softly apologized, saying there was no harm meant, only respect. The chat erupted with laughter, calling Ark the destroyer of character, as Kuma's usual cheer shifted into something genuine, her true self slipping through, brought out effortlessly by Ark's quiet presence. Ark smiled at the screen, calling someone the most precious to her. A sudden thud followed, startling Suda as she hit the wall without warning. He stared in confusion, while she turned calmly, saying it was nothing and to relax. She explained her sister often hit the wall like that when things got too heated. Ark and Suda froze in panic as the realization struck. Komachi might be live while they were together. Their faces turned pale, eyes wide as tension filled the room. Both leaned toward the screen, shouting in unison, desperate to fix the situation. Fear surged as Suda clutched his head, realizing the audience could see everything. The air tightened around them, each second feeling heavier, as he muttered not to let the viewers find out, announcing one more person to join. Ark turned toward her with a startled look, suggested it was time to introduce another guest. Their eyes met, tension flickering for a moment before Suda nodded in realization. A loud step echoed as the door opened, revealing the next arrival, calling out Isuzu's name and declaring it her turn, while the others straightened, ready for the three-person collaboration to begin. Isuzu stepped forward, her eyes sharp and voice cold, calling out to her brother and demanding to know who the girl beside him was. The air grew tense, her glare cutting through the room like a blade. From the screen, Komachi's playful tone broke the silence, calling out the chaos with teasing words about danger and drama. She laughed lightly, announcing the next act, an intense duel between two siblings, turning the tension into a spectacle that only fueled the excitement further. Ark tried to introduce Isuzu with a calm tone, while tension filled the room. Isuzu sat silently, her gaze sharp and cold, clearly displeased. Her voice trembled with irritation as she demanded to know why that girl was even there, insisting she should leave. Ark tried to reason, explaining that they were in the middle of a collaboration. Isuzu looked away, frustrated but holding back her words. The air between them thick with uneasy silence settled once again. Ark apologized softly, saying his sister wasn't very polite, while Isuzu muttered that both siblings were the same. Wine and Kuma smiled, saying it was fine since this was their first collab. Ark looked at Isuzu, hesitating as her name slipped out quietly. Isuzu stood proudly, arms crossed with a bright grin, though the energy around her quickly shifted. The earlier boldness that pushed her into the room began to fade, replaced by the shy nature hidden beneath her emotion. Ark watched quietly, realizing the fear behind her calm face. He wanted to help, but with so many eyes watching, he held back, knowing they couldn't let anyone notice. Suda looked at her with a calm, steady gaze, calling out softly, "Isuzu." His voice carried warmth, firm but reassuring. He reminded her that the one standing there was no longer the shy, introverted Isuzu from before. Su spoke softly, reminding her that right now she wasn't the shy, introverted Isuzu. She was here to entertain many people. Isuzu Wine, the famous VTuber known by all. Isuzu looked flustered, cheeks warm as she tried to keep calm. Someone yelled not to mention real names, followed by Suda's quiet apology. Relief came with a sigh. Thankfully, the mute was on. But the peace didn't last. Teasing voices asked why there was a girl's scent beside him, and Sultan froze, caught in the middle of their playful chaos. Relieved that everything had returned to normal, while playful teasing filled the air about a yander little sister chasing her brother. Laughter followed as Ark teased that Isuzu cared deeply for her Oniai-chan, making Isuzu puff her cheeks and deny it, her flustered reaction only adding to the cheerful chaos around them. With a bold smile, Isuzu declared that her love for her Oni-chan was greater than anyone in the world, telling not to misunderstand. Her confident words filled the air, leaving her friends speechless, eyes wide in surprise at her sudden honesty. With a confident smile, the girl leaned forward, declaring she wouldn't lose so easily. Her eyes gleamed with determination, meeting the screen before her. Messages poured in, words of joy, surprise, and support, each one echoing the excitement of the moment. From doubts to admiration, the viewers' hearts shifted, now cheering for the bond that had grown stronger before their eyes. Isuzu clung tightly, confused by calm words, asking not to lose. Suda watched in silence as a quiet thought followed, wishing Isuzu could have more space for herself, more light beyond family. For the first time, she could finally talk and smile with others outside her world. Their live streaming session finally comes to an end after lasting for an entire hour, and the three of them end up feeling deeply exhausted both physically and mentally. The fatigue is felt most strongly by Shoyuta, who is suddenly pulled into an unexpected collaboration with Arc, only for Isuzu to join partway through the broadcast as well. As the stream continues, Isuzu's naturally shy personality begins to surface, making her movements and reactions more restrained than usual. Although there is a brief moment of panic at the beginning, Shoyuta feels relieved and grateful that everything ultimately finishes without major trouble and reaches a calm conclusion. Arc expresses sincere appreciation for the hard work that Shoyuta and Isuzu put into the live stream, with special gratitude directed toward Isuzu. At the same time, Mark feels the need to apologize for having pushed Isuzu to participate in the live session that day, believing that without Isuzu's presence, the broadcast would have descended into complete chaos. After the stream ends, Shoyuta escorts Arc to the car, offering thanks for the collaboration that day and making a quiet promise to repay Arc's kindness at some point in the future. Arc responds lightly, indicating that repayment is unnecessary because the day already brings significant gains. Arc reveals that the channel's subscriber count increases by 200,000 in a single day, reaching a total of 8.2 million subscribers. For Arc, this surge represents the largest growth experienced in recent times, which leads to renewed gratitude toward Shoyuta. Shoyuta, meanwhile, feels stunned and momentarily at a loss for words upon hearing about such a dramatic increase in subscribers. As they stand there, Arc recalls the moment when Shoyuta kneels in front of Isuzu during the stream, interpreting it as a clear sign of how deeply Shoyuta cares for his younger sister. This realization stirs a sense of quiet envy within Arc. However, Shoyuta does not catch what Arc mutters and simply reacts with confusion. Arc brushes it off, brings the interaction to a close, and soon the car pulls away, leaving Shoyuta standing alone. Shoyuta then returns to his room, where Isuzu suddenly approaches and wraps her arms around him. She grows curious about what Shoyuta talks about with Arc, feeling that he takes quite a long time to see Arc off. Shoyuta calmly explains that he is simply expressing his thanks. He gently pats Isuzu's head, and the gesture immediately lifts her mood, reinforcing the trust she places in him. Isuzu then shares her own news, revealing that her subscriber count increases by 50,000 that day, reaching 1.55 million subscribers. Shoyuta feels genuinely happy upon hearing this achievement. However, Isuzu quickly adds that she does not feel entirely pleased, because the increase happens partly due to Arc's presence, which leaves her feeling irritated. She refuses to lose to Arc, and holds a strong desire to become number one through her own effort alone. Shoyuta feels taken aback by Isuzu's determination, and begins to wonder whether she can truly walk a path similar to Arc's. He firmly believes that Isuzu will continue to work hard and face numerous hardships that he himself cannot fully imagine. At the same time, he worries about whether Isuzu might push herself too far in an attempt to match Arc's success. Even so, Shoyuta resolves to support Isuzu's dream no matter what lies ahead. Deep in his heart, Shoyuta offers a silent apology to Arc, acknowledging that he too does not want to lose. Everything he does is ultimately for Isuzu's sake. Yet Shoyuta also recognizes that 8.2 million subscribers is no small number. If he truly wants to help Isuzu reach her dream, he must think carefully about what kind of content they will present in future live streams. Shoyuta reflects on his own limitations, realizing that he is not particularly skilled at playing games, and is not especially eloquent either. Even so, he believes that people will still come to watch his live streams, and he wants them to genuinely enjoy the experience. Despite this desire, He lacks a clear image of the kind of tuber concept he wants to create. As these thoughts continue to swirl in his mind, Shoyuta finds himself wondering how he can truly entertain the people who will one day watch him. Suddenly, Shuta's father calls out to him and informs him that Yutako has arrived to pick him up. Shoyuta immediately goes to meet her, and Yutako greets him as usual. During the trip, Shoyuta asks Yutako not to trouble herself by coming all the way to pick him up, since that day they are only going to collect their exam results and nothing more. Yutako, however, considers Shoyuta far too naive, because at school his name has been widely discussed as the older brother of Isuzu Wine. Yutako assumes that if Shoyuta comes to school alone, he will instantly be surrounded by many people. She also suspects that countless messages are being sent to Shoyuta through line. Shoyuta admits that her guess is correct and explains that his notifications do not stop ringing, which leads him to set his phone to silent mode. This is also the reason why he only replies to Yutako's messages. Hearing this, Yutako's face turns red. Yutako points out that even though Shoyuta already knows he will be bothered by others at school, he still has the courage to show up that day. Shoyuta reflects that this is because he has already made up his mind to keep moving forward. He decides to fight through the situation and try his best to balance his school life with his activities as a VTuber. Once they arrive in the classroom, many students soon notice Shuta's presence. Their attention quickly gathers around him, and several of them want Shoyuta to tell them whether he is also planning to become a VTuber. Others want photos of the person behind Isuzu Wine. Some students mention that they watched the live collaboration between Shoyuta and Arc, and they grow curious about what the person behind Arc is really like. Shoyuta feels startled by the sudden shift in their behavior and begins to question why everyone acts so differently all of a sudden. Even people who have never spoken to him before now approach him casually. At that moment, Yutaka steps forward and positions herself in front of Shoyuta to shield him. She urges the students to return to their seats, reminding them that the teacher is about to arrive. She also warns that once the teacher becomes angry, the lecture will drag on for a very long time. Yutako adds that none of the students would want to end up going home late because of such trouble. Hearing this, the students reluctantly return to their seats, still holding on to the hope that Shoyuta will eventually share many things with them. Meanwhile, Shoyuta realizes that he cannot tell the students anything at all. He quietly thanks Yutako for helping him out. Yutako responds by reminding him once again that she already tells him how naive he is, and Shoyuta can only agree with her assessment. As his thoughts drift, Shoyuta begins to wonder whether Arc and other tubers also experience such drastic changes in how people around them behave. He questions how Arc and others react when they first face this kind of attention. Shoyuta then wonders whether Yutako feels any curiosity toward him at all. Yutako makes it clear that she understands Shoyuta better than anyone else at school, simply because they are childhood friends. She then laughs and treats it lightly, admitting that she is only joking. Even if she learns more about Shoyuta, she still feels that she would lose to Isuzu, since in her eyes, Isuzu is the person who understands Shoyuta the most. Shoyuta reflects that Yutako's relaxed nature and her habit of being honest at all times make him feel at ease around her. Yutako, in turn, feels happy that there is someone who does not change at all, even in a situation like this. On the other hand, Shoyuta notices that he has not seen Kasumi at all since the last holiday. He thinks that even though meeting Kasumi again will surely feel awkward, he still wants to apologize for what happens during the previous livestream, where Kasumi's name is mentioned openly. As these thoughts linger, a female teacher suddenly approaches Yutako and asks whether Shoyuta has already arrived. Shoyuta steps forward to show himself. The teacher then informs him that the principal wants to meet with him. Shoyuta is immediately taken aback and begins to wonder whether he has unknowingly done something wrong. On the day the test results are handed out, many of Shuta's classmates attempt to pry information from him, but he believes he can get through all of it without serious trouble. In his mind, Shoyuta assumes that the reason he is summoned to the principal's office is related to Kasumi. For him, it feels like a genuine issue because he accidentally mentions the real name of a student during a live stream. As he walks, Shoyuta begins to imagine possible consequences, wondering whether he might be suspended or even expelled because of that mistake. When the female teacher knocks on the door of the principal's office, she announces the name Tenryugawa. Hearing this, Shoyuta suddenly recalls that Tenryugawa is the family name of Arc. Once the door opens, he is met with an unexpected sight, as Ark is already seated in the principal's chair and acknowledges his presence. Shoyuta is taken aback, and even the female teacher who escorts him there does not anticipate that Shoyuta and Ark already know each other. Shoyuta feels at a loss when it comes to explaining the situation, because their relationship goes far beyond mere acquaintance. In fact, he and Ark have only just collaborated in a live stream the day before. This makes Shoyuta briefly wonder whether the teacher happens to watch that live stream as well. The female teacher soon excuses herself and leaves, while the principal expresses his thanks to her. The principal then introduces himself warmly as Tenryogwa Kujuru, who is revealed to be Ark's father. Kujuru expresses his gratitude towards Shoyuta for accompanying Ark and spending time with her up to this point. In response, Shoyuta feels compelled to apologize for what happens the previous day, believing that his behavior toward Ark is improper. Both Kujuru and Ark appear confused by Shuta's sudden formality and apology, and the room falls into a brief silence. Shoyuta, feeling uneasy, apologizes once again. Kujuru gently reassures Shoyuta, explaining that he only hears from his daughter that she has made a friend. Ark then corrects this impression, clarifying that she never explicitly states that she and Shoyuta are friends. This causes Shoyuta to hesitate, as he has already assumed that they share such a bond. Realizing this, Ark grows embarrassed and seems to accept that the assumption may not be wrong after all. Kujuru then encourages Shoyuta not to be overly reserved and to address him by name instead. Shoyuta feels that doing so might be excessive for someone like him, but Kujuru persists, explaining that regardless of the circumstances, Shoyuta is the only friend Ark has within this school environment. This revelation surprises Shoyuta, especially when he learns that Ark also attends Arapico. Ark points out that she already expects Shoyuta to be completely unaware of this fact. She then explains that she is indeed a student at the same school, although she is currently enrolled in the junior high division rather than the senior high division. Shoyuta reflects on this information and realizes that Ark is not only a VTuber with 8.2 million subscribers while still in her third year of junior high, but also a well-known pianist. To Shoyuta, Ark appears incredibly accomplished. Kujuru acknowledges this as well, remarking that just as Shoyuta observes, Ark is already extremely busy despite being only 15 years old. As both an educator and a father, Kujuru admits that he initially feels worried about her situation. However, he also feels relieved and grateful that Ark has a friend like Shoyuta. Hearing this, Shoyuta recalls how Ark once expresses envy toward him because of the warmth within Shuta's family. Kujuru then reaches out to Shoyuta for a handshake and admits that his request may sound somewhat selfish. He asks Shoyuta to remain friends with his daughter, explaining that it would bring him great happiness. Kujuru also clarifies that this is the sole reason Shoyuta is called into the office, and he promises to support Shoyuta during his future live streams. Shoyuta readily agrees to this request, because to him, Ark already feels like a close companion. Ark grows visibly shy upon realizing that Shoyuta regards her as a trusted friend. After that, Shoyuta extends his hand toward Ark, asking for her cooperation going forward. Ark responds by clasping and shut his hand with both of hers, and with a gentle smile, she silently asks for his support as well. Night falls, and Shoyuta finally returns home with a heavy sense of exhaustion settling over his body. As he steps inside, he assumes that his father is out somewhere, judging from the quiet atmosphere of the house. Almost immediately, Shoyuta notices something unusual, as Isuzu does not come out to greet him the way she usually does. Sensing that something is off, Shoyuta starts looking for her. When he reaches Isuzu's room, he sees that the door is slightly open. Shoyuta calls out to check whether Isuzu is inside and asks for permission to enter before stepping in. Inside the room, he finds Isuzu asleep in her chair, her body slumped forward, while she murmurs Shuta's name in her sleep. Seeing this, Shoyuta gently points out that sleeping in a chair like that will make her catch a chill. Isuzu, still half asleep, asks Shoyuta to carry her. Shoyuta agrees without hesitation, carefully lifting her up and carrying her over to the bed, where he lays her down properly. At first, Shoyuta assumes that Isuzu plays games until she accidentally falls asleep. However, a sudden realization crosses his mind, and he begins to suspect that Isuzu is actually in the middle of a live stream. Acting on this thought, Shoyuta quickly moves toward Isuzu's computer to check the screen. There, he sees countless comments already flooding in. many of them reacting to the sight of Shoyuta carrying Isuzu just moments earlier. Shoyuta becomes unsure whether the broadcast is still ongoing. From the comments, he understands that the viewers have been trying to wake Isuzu up for quite some time. But no matter how much they comment, she does not respond at all. Shoyuta reflects that it is impossible to wake Isuzu using silent chat messages alone. The viewers seem to come to the same realization, and they express their appreciation for Shoyuta showing up. With Isuzu unable to continue, Shoyuta realizes that he has no choice but to take her place. For him, this moment turns into an unexpected solo livestream, happening even before his official debut. As the situation unfolds, the viewers grow increasingly excited at the idea of watching Shuta's sudden appearance and impromptu livestream, filling the chat with anticipation for what he will do next. Shoyuta calmly explains the situation from the beginning, stating that after safely receiving his test results at school, where he achieves perfect scores, he ends up meeting and greeting the principal, who turns out to be Ark's father. Due to a series of unexpected circumstances, he now finds himself doing a sudden solo live stream on his younger sister's channel. What is clear to him at this point is the fact that Isuzu falls asleep in the middle of her live stream, which leads to the current situation. Shoyuta apologizes to everyone watching, because he assumes that the viewers originally intend to watch Isuzu's live stream, only for it to turn out like this instead. However, the viewers react in a way he does not expect. They express that Shoyuta is not at fault at all, and instead they feel pleased with the stream. For them, Isuzu falling asleep becomes an enjoyable kind of event, and even the sound of her breathing while sleeping brings a sense of calm and comfort. Shoyuta, on the other hand, still cannot fully understand how people can feel happy just by listening to someone sleeping. Shoyuta then mentions that later he will ask Isuzu to apologize properly to the viewers, and he decides that for today, he should bring the live stream to a close. As he prepares to end the broadcast, more comments appear, pointing out that Shuta's voice sounds amusing. Just as he is about to shut everything down, the viewers strongly ask him to continue. They explain that the stream feels entertaining precisely because the avatar on screen belongs to Isuzu, while the voice guiding it is Shuta's. They also express that they do not want to be left suddenly, as they faithfully wait for both Isuzu and Shoyuta. Shoyuta reasons that even though Isuzu is his younger sister, the channel does not belong to him. Yet when the viewers state that they are actually waiting for Shuta's presence, he is caught off guard. For reasons he cannot fully explain, hearing that makes him feel unexpectedly happy. Accepting the situation, Shota decides that until Isuzu wakes up, he will take control and continue the live stream in her place. The viewers respond with clear excitement toward this spontaneous broadcast. Because the comments flow in too quickly, Shoyuta finds himself unable to read them all, and he quickly falls behind. He openly praises Isuzu, thinking that she is truly amazing for being able to handle and respond to such a massive amount of comments with ease. As her older brother, he feels a deep sense of pride in having a younger sister like Isuzu. Before long, Isuzu begins to stir as she notices Shuta's voice, slowly waking up from her sleep. The viewers urge Shoyuta to wake her up properly and ask him about the secret behind Isuzu's incredible ability. Some of them suggest exaggerated methods, such as waking her with a kiss, or by tickling her. Shoyuta firmly rejects such ideas, stating that there is no way he would do something like that to disturb the sleep of his younger sister, whom he finds genuinely cute. He also makes it clear that he is not someone obsessively attached to his sister, but simply an older brother who deeply cares for her. Despite this clarification, the viewers refuse to believe him and continue labeling him as overly devoted to his sister. Isuzu, who hears all of this, remains silent and grows visibly shy. Shoyuta then wonders aloud what topic he should talk about next. The viewers suggest that he should simply chat casually, as they want to hear about his day. Following that suggestion, Shoyuta shares that his day at school turns out to be extremely chaotic. He then begins to talk at length about his daily life, letting his thoughts flow naturally. As he speaks, Shoyuta reflects that aside from moments spent with his family or with Yutako, he cannot remember the last time he enjoys a lively conversation like this with others. Lately, his days consist of nothing more than studying and working part-time, making this unexpected live stream feel strangely refreshing to him. The viewers then remind everyone that the remaining time is almost up, because earlier Isuzu states that her live stream is only scheduled to last for 2 hours. Shoyuta becomes aware of this fact as well. Despite that, The viewers clearly do not want the livestream to end yet, because they still want to continue chatting with Shoyuta. Some of them even go as far as suggesting that Shoyuta should create his own channel. Shoyuta feels that everyone is being surprisingly kind to him, even though he is not their older brother. At that moment, Isuzu fully wakes up and affirms that it all makes sense, because Shoyuta really is her older brother. She then clings to him closely and kisses him, showing her affection without hesitation. Meanwhile, Shoyuta apologizes to Isuzu, feeling as though he has taken over her livestream channel without permission. Isuzu reassures him that it does not matter at all, because he is her brother, and she has already told the viewers many times that Shoyuta is not their brother. The viewers respond by labeling the two of them as overly attached siblings. Isuzu then praises Shoyuta, acknowledging that he manages to generate an impressive amount of comments in such a short time. As Isuzu checks the comment section more closely, she notices remarks that suggest someone is developing feelings for Shoyuta. This immediately prompts Isuzu to assert that Shoyuta belongs to her, and that she will never hand him over to anyone else. Shoyuta quickly asks Isuzu to calm down, reminding her that they need to end the livestream soon. He urges her to apologize properly to the viewers and to give a closing greeting. Isuzu does so reluctantly, offering her apology to the audience. This marks the end of the incident involving Isuzu Wine falling asleep during her livestream. Everything concludes peacefully, and from that point on, Isuzu's older brother begins preparing himself for his official debut, which is scheduled to take place a few days later. After some time passes, Shoyuta returns home one day, and Isuzu welcomes him, as she usually does. She quickly notices that Shoyuta comes home later than usual. Growing suspicious, Isuzu leans in and picks up the scent on Shoyuta, realizing that he carries the smell of two different girls, which she identifies as Arc and Raimi. Based on this, Isuzu accuses Shoyuta of being unfaithful. Shoyuta feels bewildered because Isuzu behaves like a tracking dog, and every one of her guesses turns out to be accurate. Shoyuta explains that he simply happens to meet Arc at the agency earlier, where Arc expresses an intention to collaborate again in a future livestream. This explanation only makes Isuzu more irritated. Shoyuta then adds that he turns down the offer, because the next stream is no longer an impromptu one, but the official debut stream of Anakinya Wine. For his official debut, Shoyuta wants only Isuzu to be by his side. Hearing this, Isuzu feels deeply moved. She hugs Shoyuta tightly and expresses her affection for him. She then questions whether Shoyuta is truly certain about this decision, pointing out that Arc has 8.2 million subscribers and is recognized as one of the 4 great VTuber figures. Shoyuta maintains his certainty. Isuzu insists that this is Shoyuta's one and only chance to raise his own name, and she asks him again, only to receive the same unwavering response. Shoyuta goes on to state that even though Isuzu is a hikikomori, a burden, and troublesome at times, he still chooses to stay with her. Those words cause Isuzu to feel as though her heart is melting. Shortly after, Shoyuta remembers that he needs to create an account on X. Isuzu asks him to follow her first, promising that she will be the very first person to follow him back. After creating his X account, Shoyuta introduces himself as the older brother of Isuzu Wine and announces that his debut will take place the next day at 7 p.m. In a remarkably short span of time, the number of followers on Shoyuta's X account skyrockets from just 1 to 62,000. Then, at 7 p.m. on the day of his debut, when all attention is focused on Shoyuta, he makes a post apologizing and informing everyone that the debut live stream for that day is postponed. The viewers are left confused by this sudden announcement, and many of them begin to wonder what could possibly be happening behind the scenes. On the same day at 8 p.m., inside Arc's home, Arc notices that the debut live stream of Anakinya Wine, which has already become a trending topic across the internet, is suddenly cancelled. At the same time, the situation on social media platform X descends into chaos as confusion and speculation spread rapidly. Arc, who is currently in the middle of her own livestream, cannot help but wonder why Shoyuta chooses to cancel the debut right before the scheduled start time. In her mind, Arc feels certain that Shoyuta would never do something like this without a serious and unavoidable reason behind it. Arc briefly loses focus and realizes that she has been spacing out. She acknowledges this and offers an apology to her viewers, explaining that her thoughts are occupied by something troubling her. She then shares that her concern revolves around Anakinya Wine because it feels unbelievable that a debut livestream can be cancelled at the very last moment. Arc reflects on Shoota's character and tries to understand what could possibly drive him to make such a decision. The viewers themselves are equally confused. Many of them believe that Shoyuta is a highly responsible person, which leads them to think that there must be a significant reason behind the cancellation. Some viewers even begin to worry that something serious has happened. Arc shares this concern, as she also cannot believe that Shoyuta would cancel such an important event without cause. Speculation among the viewers grows darker, with some suggesting that Shoyuta might be involved in an accident, especially since there are reports of an accident occurring around the same time. Hearing this, Arc becomes visibly irritated and rejects the idea outright. In her agitation, she drops her joystick, causing her in-game avatar to be on the verge of defeat. The viewers try to warn her about the situation in the game, but Arc's attention is already elsewhere. Arc focuses entirely on her phone, her worry intensifying at the thought that Shoyuta might be hurt. She sends a message to Shoyuta, but there is no immediate response. One of the viewers suggests that if Arc is truly this worried, she should simply call him directly. Arc quickly agrees with this reasoning and attempts to call Shoyuta, feeling anxious as she hopes he will answer. The viewers observe that ever since Arc becomes acquainted with Shoyuta, the personality of her Kuma character seems to change completely. Her in-game avatar soon reaches a game over state, yet Arc pays no attention to it at all. When the call is finally answered, Shoyuta responds on the other end. Arc reacts with frustration, feeling that it is unreasonable for him to act as if nothing is wrong. She makes it clear that if Shoyuta is safe, he should at least respond to her messages. At that point, Shoyuta realizes how worried Arc is and apologizes. Arc can no longer hold back her emotions and begins to cry, making it unmistakably clear that her concern for Shoyuta is genuine. Shoyuta apologizes once more and reassures her that he is safe and unharmed. After calming down slightly, Arc seeks an explanation for why Shoyuta suddenly cancels his debut live stream. Shoyuta asks Arc to promise that she will not get angry once he explains the reason. Arc acknowledges that she will still be angry regardless. Shoyuta responds that if that is the case, he might not explain it at all, which only leads Arc to insist that she would be even angrier. Eventually, Shoyuta reveals the truth behind his decision. Shoyuta explains that he cancels the livestream because Isuzu suddenly develops a high fever. Upon hearing this, Arc immediately becomes concerned about Suzu's condition. Shoyuta goes on to explain that Isuzu catches a seasonal flu at an unusual time of year. He has already called a doctor to come to their home, and after taking the prescribed medicine, Isuzu's condition is gradually improving. Arc feels relieved by this explanation. She then wonders whether Isuzu's illness is truly that severe and questions why Shoyuta does not take her directly to the hospital. Shoyuta clarifies that Isuzu's condition is not that serious, easing Arc's worries as the situation finally begins to make sense. For a moment, Shoyuta hesitates, wondering whether it is truly acceptable to share all of this. He believes that Arc is not only worried about him, but is also certainly worried about Isuzu as well. With that in mind, Shoyuta continues and explains that ever since their mother passes away, Isuzu no longer has the courage to leave the house and instead shuts herself inside day after day. He goes on to explain that their mother dies due to illness, and because of that experience, Isuzu develops a deep fear of becoming sick herself. As a result, Shoyuta wants to stay by Isuzu's side throughout the entire day, keeping her company and making sure she does not feel alone. He also apologizes again for acting recklessly and making decisions on his own. Arc reacts with visible irritation and bluntly calls Shoyuta foolish. She points out that Shoyuta himself says back at the office that he wants to become a VTuber, so that he can be the closest person who protects his Suzu. From Arc's perspective, Shoyuta needs to remain loyal to his feelings towards Suzu, without caring about what other people might think of him. She believes that this kind of determination is admirable and genuinely cool. Unexpectedly, the viewers flood Arc's livestream with positive comments directed toward Shoyuta. Many of them express support and admiration for his actions. Some viewers even request that Arc enable Super Chat so they can send money as a form of support. Arc responds by explaining that if they want to send donations through Super Chat, it should be for supporting her own channel. She then realizes and apologizes for forgetting to turn off the livestream while she is on the phone with Shoyuta, which leaves Shoyuta shocked upon hearing that their entire exchange is being broadcast. Shoyuta immediately apologizes once more for canceling his debut livestream that day. Arc suggests that Shoyuta should later apologize directly on his own channel. She also encourages the viewers to send any kind of support or assistance for Shoyuta through the agency office. Arc adds that from now on, if anything happens, she wants Shoyuta to contact her without hesitation. Shoyuta promises to do so and apologizes again for making Arc cry. However, Arc refuses to forgive him so easily. From the viewer's perspective, the interaction between Arc and Shoyuta resembles a couple in the middle of an argument. Arc quickly clarifies that they are neither fighting nor in a romantic relationship. After the live stream ends and the call with Shoyuta concludes, Arc finally allows herself to smile in relief, reassured by the fact that Shoyuta ultimately turns out to be safe and unharmed. Morning arrives and Shoyuta, who postpones his debut livestream, goes to school as usual. He finishes getting ready, and just as he is about to leave, Isuzu comes to him. Shoyuta asks what is going on, and Isuzu wonders whether that day marks the closing ceremony of the semester. Because of that, she wants to see Shoyuta off properly before he leaves. Shoyuta expresses his thanks while gently patting Isuzu's hair. Several days have already passed since Isuzu comes down with the flu. She is fully recovered and returns to her normal routine. The debut livestream that Shoyuta deliberately cancels in order to take care of Isuzu is now rescheduled for that very night. Shoyuta announces this plan on his X social media account, even though there is a clear reason behind the earlier cancellation. A cancellation is still a cancellation, and Shoyuta cannot help but worry about whether anyone will actually come to watch the live stream later. Despite these concerns, he steels himself with the determination to do his absolute best for Isuzu. Shoyuta says his goodbyes to Isuzu and heads to school. After classes end, he suddenly bolts out of the school grounds, questioning how everything turns out this way. At the same time, many students run around searching for Shoyuta, who disappears immediately after class. They want a chance to get close to him before the summer break begins. While hiding, Shoyuta reflects that all he wants is for the semester's closing ceremony to pass peacefully. Yutako appears and urges Shoyuta to leave with her, while the students continue chasing after him in hopes of getting a real photo of Isuzu. Once all the pursuing students finally move away, Yutako judges that the situation is safe. Shoyuta thanks Yutako for helping him out once again. Yutako comments that becoming a famous person turns out to be quite troublesome, since Shoyuta is already being swarmed by students from the morning onward. Shoyuta can only laugh in response. Shoyuta himself does not truly feel like a famous person. Even though the people around him now look at him differently than before, Yutaka remains unchanged, acting just like her usual self. Suddenly, the voice of a student echoes nearby, mentioning that she might have left something behind in the room where Shoyuta is hiding. Both Shoyuta and Yutako freeze in surprise. Yutako quickly suggests that Shoyuta hide, and Shoyuta becomes confused about why Yutako also hides with him. Yutako urgently insists that Shoyuta stay hidden, warning that it would be dangerous if anyone finds out there is a boy in that room. Moments later, two female students enter the room and locate a pair of basketball shoes that have been left behind in the clubroom. Meanwhile, Shoyuta remains hidden inside the locker together with Yutako and quietly offers an apology. Yutako asks what the apology is for, but Shoyuta cannot bring himself to explain it clearly. Yutako stays focused on the voices of the two female students outside and assumes that they have already left the room. Not long after that, Yutako realizes that Shoyuta is apologizing because his chest is pressed against hers inside the cramped space. Yutako responds that there is nothing that can be done about it, since the situation is an emergency. She even urges them to get out as soon as possible, worried that someone else might enter the room again. Shoyuta comments that Yutako can be very straightforward at times. Yutako feels confused about being called straightforward over something like this, and she thinks that if Shoyuta keeps reacting this way, he might have trouble getting a girlfriend in the future. Shoyuta counters that even so, this attitude allows him to have female friends. Yutako is taken aback when she hears that Shoyuta has female friends other than herself. She immediately asks who that person is, and whether the girl attends the same school as them. At the same time, Shoyuta feels short of breath because Yutako's chest is pressing firmly against his. He rarely sees Yutaka this flustered, even though Isuzu once reacts with similar surprise before. Shoyuta begins to wonder whether simply having a friend can really cause such a reaction. He then explains that his new female friend is actually a senior from his VTuber agency. Yutako responds that this means the girl shares the same profession as Shoyuta, and she questions whether their relationship is limited to work-related matters. If that is the case, she feels it cannot truly be counted as friendship. Only then does Shoyuta realize the point she is making. Yutako also comes to understand that from now on, Shoyuta will interact with girls more frequently. She asks whether Shoyuta plans to date the senior he mentions earlier. Shoyuta feels puzzled by how Yutako reaches that conclusion, since he already makes it clear that the girl is only a friend. Yutako then suggests that during the upcoming summer vacation, they should go out and spend time together. Shoyuta becomes confused by the sudden invitation. He explains that he can go out as long as he does not have VTuber-related activities scheduled. He also assumes that the outing would include Yutako's older sibling, and he starts wondering where they should go. Yutako clarifies that this is not what she means, because she wants the two of them to go out alone. Shoyuta is visibly surprised by this. Yutako quickly adds that he should not misunderstand her intentions, explaining that she suggests going out together only because her older sibling already has a partner. Shoyuta responds by offering his congratulations for that. Yutaka then points out that Shoyuta has scheduled his debut stream for that very day, which is why she urges him to head home before anyone else notices them. Only then does Shoyuta realize the urgency of the situation. The two of them finally step out of the locker. Yutako carefully peeks outside to check whether any students are still around. After opening the door and confirming that the area is safe, Yutako tells Shoyuta that she will support him as much as she can and offers him encouragement. Shoyuta thanks her sincerely. For Shoyuta, simply being encouraged like that is more than enough. He suspects that Yutako says those words because she knows exactly how he tends to think. Shoyuta reflects that having a childhood friend like this turns out to be quite comforting. Suddenly, Reimi calls Shoyuta to ask about his preparations for the debut live stream later that night. Shoyuta expresses his gratitude for checking in and assures her that his preparations are fully in place. Reimi comments that the seniors among VTubers are truly impressive. Shoyuta wonders what she means by that remark. Reimi explains that she is looking forward to an exciting livestream accident happening later that evening. Shoyuta firmly states that there will be no more accidents today, emphasizing that he is extremely well prepared and completely confident that nothing will go wrong. Reimi responds by saying that such an outcome would be rather unfortunate. Isuzu then arrives and reminds Shoyuta that his debut is about to begin soon. Shoyuta acknowledges this and says that he will get ready. He informs Reimi that he is heading off, and Reimi sends him words of encouragement in return. Shoyuta sets up the laptop he borrows from the agency and notices that his avatar moves in perfect sync with all of his actions. He also prepares a spare account on his phone to monitor the live stream as it runs. The live stream finally begins, and the comment section starts functioning properly. Shoyuta begins his broadcast, quietly hoping that Isuzu will give him strength. The moment has arrived for him to step forward and begin his debut live stream at last. The debut live stream of Anakinia Wine finally begins. The purple, grape-haired avatar moves in perfect sync with every motion Shoyuta makes. The comment section is already overflowing, messages streaming by so quickly that they are impossible to read one by one. Even so, this time Shoyuta feels confident. He is certain that he will not mess things up again, and he is determined that this debut livestream will end smoothly without any trouble. Shoyuta thanks the viewers for coming, watching, and leaving comments during his debut today. He says that thanks to everyone watching, today's debut livestream feels genuinely fun and fulfilling. Some viewers comment that the atmosphere feels as if the stream is about to end already. Shoyuta then explains that first of all, he wants to express his gratitude to everyone and also apologize for his previous lack of manners. He firmly states that he is not the viewer's big brother because the only little sister he has is Isuzu. The comment section immediately reacts, with people joking that Shoyuta seems like a hardcore siscon, and one viewer even calls him Big Brother. Anyway, Shoyuta responds by repeating that he already said he is not their big brother. From behind the scenes, Isuzu speaks up and tells him that if he keeps responding to comments like that, it will never end. She urges him to focus on the live stream itself. Shoyuta agrees and invites everyone to continue with the stream. He properly introduces himself as Anakinia Wine, and the viewers respond positively, saying they like the name. Shoyuta then calls out to Isuzu, but right after that, he completely forgets what he was about to do next. The viewers start asking about things like what the fan name will be and what hashtag should be used for the stream. Shoyuta becomes visibly confused by these questions. Isuzu makes a small gesture with her fingers to signal him. Shoyuta asks what she is doing, pointing out that she was supposed to come in only after being called. One of the viewers comments that it looks like Isuzu could not hold back and really wanted to help Shoyuta. Isuzu then apologizes to the viewers and explains that Shoyuta still does not understand many things yet. She asks everyone to help them review things properly from the beginning together. Isuzu explains that a fan name is how Shoyuta addresses his viewers as a group. Hearing this, Shoyuta says that in that case, they should all decide on the fan name together. The viewers quickly suggest Imuto as the fan name, but Shoyuta immediately rejects it, saying that Imuto refers to Isuzu alone. Isuzu then suggests Imuto instead as the fan name. However, Shoyuta stops her, saying that he does not want to acknowledge anyone other than Isuzu as his little sister. Isuzu tells him that if he says things like that about her in front of everyone, it makes her feel embarrassed. The viewers comment that Shoyuta and Isuzu are openly flirting during the live stream. Shoyuta hurriedly tells the viewers not to look at Isuzu in that kind of way. Isuzu then smoothly moves the discussion forward to deciding the fan art tag. She explains that fan art refers to illustrations of a VTuber drawn by others, usually posted on platforms like X. Shoyuta responds by saying, "You mean like this," and then shows an example. He displays fan art drawn by Isuzu herself, which immediately makes Isuzu feel extremely embarrassed.